time for the public to make any comments. District plan. And Shabana, are you going to give us a little one, two? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we'll just do a little thing now. So we'll present the actual presentation before the actual resolution during the meeting. But just a couple of things that we have changed. We made 3 minor changes that we'll go over for the resolution to the plan that we adopted since September. We've gotten in touch with all the municipalities. They've all adopted their own ward plans, whether that be through a motion at their board meeting or an actual resolution. We've collected those, and those are all incorporated in our resolution adopting the entire. So we'll go over the 3 little changes that we made for the resolution. But it was to Eureka, so District 3 it was to Blackbrook, with the little island within the city of Amory. Districts 14 and 13 were affected. On Garfield, just a little tiny lake chunk that no people live in. We changed from to. I'll show that on the map. But that's all the changes that were made, and that's kind of what we've been doing. Otherwise, we'll do the actual.
Do we have a map of that again?
It's in your packet.
Should we, excuse me first, I think we need to take public comment if there's any public, right? We're in a public hearing, so we're not supposed to ask questions, I don't believe. Is that true, Kim?
We shouldn't yet, no. But we should have the presentation now so that the public has questions. That's when they ask.
Okay,
Usually you have a, yeah,
Presentation was at your last meeting, and then it was published, and so the public comment need to be on what was published, whether that
what was
public comment, correct, whether that came in electronically, written comments, but to add something now, new information, I don't think that would be a good idea right now. It's just public to comment on what was published.
you should make it clear what was published and what changes were going to be
I think
made
what he
after the
said-
fact.
None of those changes were substantive that changed what the plan that this board passed. I think she was just giving you an update on anything that, just giving you an update. But right now, the only purpose is not to have a discussion amongst each other. It is just to have the public have an opportunity, if they so choose, and I don't even know if we have any written or not, make public comment here. I think they're supposed to be up in the conference room.
so a discussion will be like Supervisor Middleton had something. We make that during the resolution when it comes to the floor. Then you can ask questions of Shabana.
Yeah, I just want to know what the map was. I got it.
Oh,
Yeah, I got
that wasn't very controversial.
it. No, aren't you surprised?
Does anyone in attendance in the West Conference Room have public comment regarding redistricting?
So do we actually leave the public hearing open until 5:45, or can we end it if there's no public comment?
I would recommend leaving it open at least maybe halfway in between, just in case folks were running late or there was some issue.
Sure.
But, right.
I didn't prep it. I'll remember next time. I'll have it in 10 years.
Okay. You got any jokes?
I'll let you take that.
Oh, I'm not gonna do that on camera. Hey, you got one?
About the Swede that moved to Norway and increased the IQ of both countries?
No, I didn't.
So well in this area.
Must still be working, huh?
I could have told you the one about the constipated accountant. About him.
Found?
No, I'm gonna save it. Or I'll get written up in the paper about that one.
It's good then.
Yeah.
Did, Joe get a hold of you?
Yeah,
He's quarantined,
yes.
amongst other things.
Joe and Fran are both gonna miss tonight.
Okay. Get it replaced, this is. Never lost a fight in my life. Getting old.
One was there any,
Teeth are getting
nobody
old.
send anything to you as clerk? Yesterday? You had no electronic mail,
Some municipalities, but
Nothing from the.
nothing that way.
Well, I guess one thing I would like to make sure that's in the record is that we did have a quorum for these meetings. We did do roll call.
We don't do that till them.
Only got Brad, two.
What do you like?
Eddie went to the dentist. And she says.
Okay, I'm gonna call the public hearing on the proposed final redistricting plan. We're gonna end that right now at sure. No comments were received, written or public. This now be adjourned until 5:45, and we'll have another public hearing. So you got another one, Jay? Oh, I guess we'd like to get a motion and a second to adjourn.
We'll move.
And second by Warren, all in favor? Carried. operating capital budget for 2022. We have a quorum of supervisors here. Again, this is the time for the public to make any public comments about proposed operating and capital budget for 2022. Are there any public comments? Are there any written comments? Did you receive anything at all about the budget? We will leave this open for 5 to 10 minutes and
Yeah, advertised one, so people know that this was the same as the first one that was sent out.
It's on the website,
No other changes to it up to now.
other than what you guys have added by resolution for EPAG and recycling. Trails, cycling.
That was the only things that was changed in this from what was,
And those are also published on the website,
those were published.
right? Because you have a resolution.
is that the one Joe sent?
Yeah,
He
so
sent me.
they-
There you go.
Now tomorrow?
Does that make up in the morning?
Yeah.
I'd be around like 4 o'clock. I wake up at 2. All tied down the back. And another suitcase or nothing.
Yeah.
Tied down in the back.
Well, good.
I didn't get an invitation from Rita for the grand opening. Is that soon? I'm leaving in the morning.
Have to make a special trip.
I'll be back then to December. Is that more realistic? We'll see.
It's moving along again. Public comments for the proposed budget. We're in a public hearing right now. Anyone walking in? We have up. Can they hear us? Want to make sure anyone new coming in for public comment, if they have it on the budget, we're in a public hearing right now. This would be the time to talk about the budget issue only. All right, seeing no public comment, is there a motion to turn from the public hearing? Second. All in favor?
10 minutes to relax.
Yes, you do. Meeting order.
I just think that we went through it. It gets better.
We have the notice of the amended notice of meeting and agenda for County Board of Supervisors, Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. Regular business meeting. And we call to order receipt of evidence.
The County Board of Supervisors, November 9th meeting notice and agenda was posted in the Government Center building in two places, posted on the county website on October 29th, 2021. Was published in a legal newspaper the week of November 1st, 2021. In addition, on Friday, October 29th, 2021 at 11:56 a.m., the office of the county clerk distributed copies of such notice of meeting to supervisors and media via email or mail. The notice of amended agenda was posted in the Government Center, posted on the county website, and copies of such notice of meeting with any additional proposed resolutions were distributed to the supervisors and media via email at 3:28 p.m. on Monday, November 8th, 2020.
Is this proper notice, Corporation Council?
It is.
Roll call?
Brad Olson,
Here.
Doug Rowdy, Steve Morndall,
Here.
Chris Nelson,
Here.
Tracy LeBlanc, Ken Ruck,
Here.
Mike Pritchard,
Here.
Darren Kelly, here, O'Connell,
Here.
Amy Middleton,
Here.
Dave Luke,
Here.
and Duncanson is absent and excused. Russ Arkin, John Bonaprise,
Here.
Devlin also absent and excused. We have 13.
And we have the Pledge of Allegiance, going to be led by Sheriff Walk tonight.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
5 on the agenda is disclosure, conflicts of interest, bring it up at the time. We have item number 6, a motion
I
to,
move for accept the amended agenda as presented.
second. Got any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Carried.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I didn't see the amended agenda till I got here. Didn't you, is there a lot of difference between the one that I sent out and is there a couple items that we should?
So there was just one change under the general government, letter E was added to review policy and recommendation on the general fund balance. And then environmental services committee, letter B was struck. Those were the major changes. The only other change was just a change in the order.
You had to cut down, use that whole tree just for that.
Kind of.
Okay, matters offered for adoption of the consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Carried. We're at public comment. 3 minutes. Try to keep everyone right on 3 minutes. And if everyone's here for CAFOs, that's fine. If we have anyone up there, Shabana, that is not discussing CAFOs, I want to make sure they have also time for public comment. And then please state your name and where you're from.
So name and where you're from, and then
Dale Wester.
tell them.
Hi, I'm Dale Wester. I and my wife Judy live in 901 8th Street at Centuria. And I want to speak in support of the resolution of the support for the family farms and the county ad hoc agricultural committee. about 90% of all of the food that is produced by CAFOs. And it's less than 1% of our population accounts for more than 85% of the production. Most are multi-generation operations, family owned, and have grown over time. The state has numerous regulations and so forth for the CAFOs that they have to meet. And it's quite an application process. And right now there's several that are waiting for approval for expansion. They haven't had enough people to actually meet the demand there. The resolution is number 58-21, and that would be what I was in favor of. Also, there is an opportunity for the county boards and some of the township personnel to go to actually visit hog CAFO in Thorpe, Wisconsin on the 23rd. For more information, you could contact the Wisconsin Farm Bureau and they could give you more information on that. That would be at noon and it's at Thorpe, Wisconsin. And it would be probably a couple hours in there, and you'd actually have an actual pork producer there who would be leading the presentation. I think there was 3 or 4 that would be making presentations there. So that's an opportunity for people to actually go and hear firsthand some of the things that they have to do and also see the actual operation.
Thank you, Dale. That's our 3 minutes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I want to thank the county board for this opportunity.
Okay, anybody else with a non-cable governance through?
Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Bill Oliva. I live in Centuria, and I am a citizen member of the Polk County Health and Human Services Board. My purpose this evening is to address the use of the American Rescue Plan funds, or the short version ARPA funding. At the October and November Health and Human Services Board meetings, we had the opportunity to review a list of potential ARPA categorical requests with spending amounts. There were 5 categories for project requests. 1 was infrastructure, 2 was environment and water quality, 3 was parks, trails, and recreation, 4 was local community projects, and 5 was health and safety. Each and every request with their objective statement have merit. It will be a very difficult decision to make by the board in deciding how to allocate the funding. The Polk County Board of Supervisors has developed a list of priorities, and they are posted on the wall in the boardroom. My opinion, health and safety moves to the forefront in a major important priority for the citizens of the county. On the list of the ARPA requests, the items that are of particular interest to me and should be given special note by the Board of Supervisors are specific requests related to the health and safety of citizens. Those being the communication system requests in the Sheriff's Department Mobile Command Center. Chief Deputy Don Burrows presented information to the Health and Human Services Board on November 2nd, meeting the requirements for those items. He spoke about the 16-year-old communication system and the gaps in radio service for geographic areas of the county. He also indicated a startling fact that if the 911 center located in the Justice Center was to go down due to an unforeseen event, the Sheriff Department Mobile Command Center may be the only means of emergency communication. If the command center has outdated equipment and gaps in service already exist, then the problems compound. Other county agencies, especially the health department, have already utilized the command center for mobile testing and a vaccination clinic. Updating the equipment will certainly allow an even more effective and efficient emergency response. The Health and Human Services Board has unanimously endorsed our support for a new command center. I would strongly encourage the Board of Supervisors to look very closely at the communication, radio service requests, and the replacement of the mobile command center and move those to the forefront for the ARPA funding. Thank you very much for your time.
Good job, Mr. Oliva. You got it done in 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Anybody else on a non-CAFO issue? All right, anybody with a CAFO comment can step forward.
My name is Donna Martinson. I live in Garfield Township. And I want to reflect on my time in rural Minnesota when I first was a pastor in Fairfax, 1998. That's Renville County, which is predominantly a farm economy. The community of Fairfax had 1,200 population at that time. And as I visited church members and listened to them on Sundays and at meetings, they talked about how the town had changed. And in their lifetimes and their memories, they talked about how once they had 2 or 3 car dealers, they had an implement dealer, there were 2 grocery stores, there was a pharmacy, they had all K through 12 school right in town right before consolidation. So there was Friday night football, which was a big event. They had Saturday night, the stores were open and people came into town from the area farms. And there was music and there was ice cream and every parking space was full. This trend of loss of small businesses, a loss and consolidation of schools, shrinking population, natural decline, young people moving out and not returning has been going on for decades. And we have seen most recently how Wisconsin dairy farms closing in record numbers has made the national news. You might say it's different here in Polk County, and that is true. There's a more diverse economy. However, much of the extras that bring people to us depend on the quality of life based on clean water, air, and just a beautiful landscape to enjoy. I want us to counter this trend that's been going on in agriculture for years, because as farms get bigger and bigger, fewer and fewer people live here. And then that affects everything, the schools, the local businesses, tax base, and so on. What we're asking for is an ordinance that requires large animal factory farms to demonstrate that a similar operation has provided no harm for 10 years. We've asked for them to financially guarantee the public will not be on the hook. But more than that, what we're asking for are policies that promote vibrant small towns, small businesses, and the sense that we want people who live here to love it here and to commit to really being involved and not just be tourists passing through.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I'm Mike Nardine, Clam Falls. During the last county board meeting, I was here in the public comment isolation chamber. Supervisor Nelson had invited some dairy farmers to give a presentation, ostensibly to educate. As a farmer, I immediately recognized the quality of the farm that was being presented. It was clean, automated. They took care of themselves. They took care of their animals. They took care of the land. That farmer mentioned that they have no water contamination, demonstrated all the efforts that they go through to have a thoughtful, responsible nutrient management system. In fact, I honestly wanted to break out of the public comment isolation chamber, run downstairs, jump into his arms and say to him, COVID be damned, you had me at cover crop. As beautiful and thoughtful as the farm being presented was, there's still a problem. This farm was a family farm, a dairy farm, operating as a CAFO. It has nothing to do at all with what we are talking about. We are not talking about family farms. We are not talking about dairy farms. And we are not talking about any entity that would feel a stewardship or responsibility to the land and to other people. We are talking about foreign multinational corporations. We are talking about hog farms. We are talking about entities that do not care about the land or the people. We are talking about entities that are searching for places with poverty, that lack regulations, so they can exploit those areas. That is our discussion. If the farm being presented was what we were fighting against, I wouldn't fight it. It looked great, but that's not what we're fighting against. Because Chairperson Nelson himself lacks knowledge on farming, power, and exploitation, he has wasted our time, the board's time, and the time of those hardworking farmers who came to give a presentation on his behest. He cannot provide anybody else with a quote unquote education when he is not understanding what we are trying to discuss. I beg of the board to recognize the threat that these hog factories are. They're firing the warning shots, and we are just sitting here. We're sitting ducks. So rather than being proactive, so I beg of you to please pass a Bayfield style ordinance, a Eureka style ordinance, and protect this area. Not from the farm that was presented. That farm is great. We're talking about hog CAFOs. We're talking about multinational corporations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi, I'm Mike Miles. I live in Georgetown. On June 15th, 2021, I arrived at the county office building with a 5-gallon pail piled high with daisies. I had informed all the proper authorities about my intentions to educate the county board about what a dead pig smells like. I did so because I had read that the Trade Lake Hog Factory would be creating 36,000 pounds of dead pig carcass every year. I, in turn, was informed by the health department that I would be violating state statutes and that I would not be allowed on the county grounds if I had a dead pig in a bucket. When I arrived with several other concerned citizens, we noticed 3 county deputies whose job it was to prevent me from interfering with your meeting. In a verbal exchange I had with Sergeant Bryant, the unasked question was, did I heed the warning I had received or not? What was actually in the bucket? When I declined to comply with his request to see what was in the bucket and attempted to walk around him, I was handcuffed and escorted to a squad car to be transported to the jail. No one attempted to examine the bucket to see if its contents were legal or not. I was charged with disorderly conduct and was planning on contesting the charge in court. When I declined an offer to settle for a fine of $50 and requested to be tried by a jury of my peers, the demeanor of the district attorney's office changed drastically. In a phone conference with an assistant DA, the offer became a $250 fine, which I continued to decline. Yesterday, I received a letter informing me that I was being recharged with 2 Wisconsin criminal statutes that carry a maximum penalty of $10,000 or 9 months in jail for attempting to carry a bucket of sweet corn and daisies across the parking lot of the Polk County office building. The question is, who is behind this kind of escalation and why? My action reopened the discussion about the wisdom of bringing hog factories into our county, which is a good thing. That someone behind the curtain wants to make that kind of action a serious crime is a question we all need to consider. Is that level of intimidation a tactic that should be employed by the county towards residents who are simply trying to ask important questions? It's the best I got in 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
there any other public comment?
David Klopp, Luck, Wisconsin. I just have a question because I've been listening to all this and it just doesn't make a lot of sense with the money thing. That you're gonna let the Chinese come in here and turn Polk County and Burnett County into a massive meat production facility for the world. When you really have the golden goose right here with your tourism business. And you're gonna kill the golden goose with this. I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense. It sounds like a backroom deal. And I'm just calling it the way I see it. Because you've got so much money, Polk County's got so much money, Burnett County too, and you got outstanding rivers and trout streams. You're just a tip of the iceberg for tourism. And you're gonna louse it all up, letting these factory farms come in here. And so it's either some greed with some money in someone's pocket with a backroom deal, because it just doesn't make any sense. Thank you very much.
Any other public comments?
Good evening, Christy Allen. I live in Burnett County, but I'm president of our Polk Burnett, Wisconsin Farmers Union chapter, which now has 60 members. And I just want to remind you that 2 years ago, I came and spoke to the board, and we sent a letter to the board and invited you all to come visit one of our farms, and no one ever responded or came to that visit. And I'm trying to understand why the board is inviting people from agriculture, but some of us are getting left out. So thanks for your time. That's all I have to say.
I will comment about that. 2 meetings ago, I did say to the public that if anyone, small farmers, wanna contact the board chair and discuss a presentation at the county board, I would be open to that discussion. Any other public comment?
Jackie Christensen, Marine on the St. Croix. So I live just downstream in the St. Croix River watershed. And really by now we are all aware of the numerous negative impacts from CAFOs, and we just can no longer claim this ignorance. If you didn't appreciate the value of our water before the drought of 2021, that was your wake-up call. So how do you justify that CAFOs take our precious water and return it to us in the form of manure spread? No matter what the permit says, experience with the system has shown us that allotted numbers will rise to suit the corporate needs in capture of our state agencies and decision makers. It happens over and over again. I'd like to leave you with 2 thoughts. How about a prove it first approach to CAFOs? Find an example in a water-rich environment of a CAFO that is safely operated and closed without pollution. It's not possible. You cannot do it here. And 2, I know this is probably difficult to see, but it's the most recent map of impaired waters in Minnesota, shown in red. Impaired waters means you cannot swim in, you cannot drink from, you cannot eat fish from. I wish I had this visual for Wisconsin. There are lists of impaired waters, but I don't have it in a visual like this. But the impacts do not stop at the border. The border is red. The St. Croix River is an impaired water, and we cannot add any more stress in the form of CAFOs to this watershed. We have an opportunity to write a story that is different from the tragic stories of CAFOs elsewhere. Water is what connects us all, every one of us here and here. We owe it to future generations to recognize this incredible resource and come together to protect it. Think about this every time you take a drink of water. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Any other public comments? That seems to be it, Mr. Chair.
Right, public comment, closed. Number 9, proposed resolution ordinance for discussion and possible action. Resolution 53-21, resolution to adopt final county supervisory district plan. Is that something Shabana is coming down to discuss?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
are we allowed to ask Bob Kazmersky as long as he's here a question?
Let's just wait till we're on. I don't mind putting Bob on the spot, but yes.
He likes that.
Supervisor O'Connell.
Is there any other public comment electronically sent? Check, because we actually our deal that they could send it to us. Okay. So just to check. So there wasn't any other.
Hey, Shabana, all yours.
So our final redistricting plan. So actually, I think the map in your packets was incorrect. That was the original one without that amendment that was made at the last one, but this is the actual updated one that was adopted at the September meeting with that change in districts 7 and 8 there. So this is the one that was adopted in September. Kind of as I've already mentioned during the hearing, since option A was chosen, we worked with the municipalities. They all adopted their ward plans through motions at their meetings or through resolutions. That creates our final ward plan or our final redistricting plan. They have a chance to look at theirs and say, we have little adjustments we need to make. And there was 3 cases of that. We'll go into that in Eureka, Blackbrook, and Town of Garfield. So I'll show what those changes look like. They're pretty small. So this was the one that was adopted in September. There was this little jut out here. In our system, it's kind of where 3 school districts meet. So when we were taking into account ballot styles, doing it this way was potentially eliminating one of those. I discussed with the clerk, he came and talked to me and showed me a closer up map he had of the school districts, and it wasn't actually helping anything. So we actually changed it back to the way it was. This one did affect, I think, 32 residents, going from 3 to District 8. So that was the biggest change of our small changes. It's going to stay the same amount of ballot styles as it was before. I think actually doing it this way, how we had it, added one instead of subtracting one. So we did make that fix, and this is what they adopted as their ward plan as well in Eureka. Any questions on that one? So the other one, which is kind of hard to see, there is a small island of Blackbrook land up in the city of Amory here. We had it as District 13, but their ward plan says anything to the west of 60. Anything to the west of this road here is going to be District 14, and anything to the east is District 13. So we made that adjustment on our final plan too, and this is what Blackbrook adopted as their ward plan. So that's why we made that change. It's easier for them to split that up instead of trying to say, oh, it's this little island on top of everything. This is what they adopted. So we're going to make our changes to reflect that as well. Questions on that one?
People.
0 people.
0.
And the final one, also 0 people within the town of Garfield. There is this little island kind of in a lake. It also affected 0 people. It was probably just missed. We had it in District 11 instead of 14, so we made that adjustment and made it into 14. Also affects 0 people, and this is how Garfield adopted theirs as well. So we made that change on our final redistricting plan. That one,
We don't need any motions or anything.
for the resolution, you will.
That's what we're on right now. So we would, presentation's good, questions are good. We would entertain a motion to approve resolution 5321 right now.
So
Second. Any further discussion? Mr. Pritchard?
I have a question on these charts. Which is the final and which is the?
So the top one is the one that we originally adopted. The bottom one is the new one based on Town of Garfield ward adoption. We made that change on our final map. Yes, yep, the top one is the previous one, the bottom one is the new one.
Any other discussion? Kim?
Did you receive any feedback other than just municipalities this way on these? No other
Nothing,
feedback?
no public, I believe. We were in close contact with all of the clerks who were in contact with their boards to approve all of these. Aside from that, I don't think.
State one that bring that public hearing.
You have to approve that at their town boards.
Yes.
meetings to them, okay, and then we get that.
They
put in
actually,
file.
so anybody that was above 1,000 people has to go into the system and actually create the work plan. They have to put in what the resolution or which minutes the motion was made in. All of that has to go through the system as well as we got a copy of it.
They have a file here, okay. Thank you.
That's all done now? We're all caught up?
Yep. They have all turned everything in. Everything in the system is ready for the last.
So when does it all go into effect then?
I think as soon as it's passed, it goes into effect. We do have to put it into the system so it updates our, like our election systems and all that kind of thing. It has to be done because we have our type A notices that go out for the spring election by the 23rd, which is why we've pushed.
So essentially it'll take over with the whole election.
These will be all the new district plans that'll go into effect for the April election. So if anybody's running again, these are going to be your new districts.
Any other questions? I call the question. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Carried. Environmental Services Committee. Resolution number 48-21, resolution amending chapter 42, articles 1 and 3 of the Polk County Code of Ordinances relating to towns that have enacted zoning. Someone give us a real quick rundown. Is that chair, or you want to give us what's this, Kim?
No, I'm gonna make a motion to bring it to the floor so we can discuss.
So we got a motion to bring it to the floor. Do we got a second? Second.
We'd have Jason come up and if
Okay, so Jason, you want to come on up?
there's any questions.
Good evening. So this resolution came to us, we were petitioned by the town of St. Croix Falls, and Supervisor Kelly originally created resolution 2021 to basically direct staff to look at this, and that we took and we skipped resolution 2021 and that because we just did it through committee, and we looked at the possibility of creating or making the amendments to our ordinance to allow our towns with their own zoning, which is the town of St. Croix Falls, Garfield, and Farmington, to be able to control the non-shoreland uses within the shoreland areas within their town. And basically the county, when that will only administer NR 115 standards like lake setback, height of the building, side yard setbacks, and impervious surface. And the towns will have their own zoning districts and that, like residential, commercial, that kind of stuff. And that the town of St. Croix Falls was running into it because we all know that a shoreland area is 1,000 feet from a lake or a pond and 300 feet from a river or a stream. So, for example, along the Highway 8 corridor, there were some ponds and that had a 1,000-foot buffer that was affecting some of their commercially zoned properties at the town level, but we had them zoned like an RA5 zoning classification or an R1 classification. So anyway, in committee, the committee worked on this. We came up with a draft to take and remove provisions on that, like bunk houses and tourist rooming houses, boat houses, and that besides all the general zoning classifications, parking requirements, because any of that kind of stuff might conflict with the town's ordinance, and we're trying to eliminate any conflicting provisions that they might be regulating through the use. So basically, just back to that NR 115. We did receive a letter in writing from Garfield, and it was submitted by their town chair. And we also received it from the town of Farmington, and at their meeting that they were approving of this as well. So there'll still be a duplicate county review process, and that we'll still have to issue a land use permit in those towns for those buildings. But most of the requirements are going to be handled. So that'll also allow them to, enforce their comprehensive plans better, because they'll be the ones in charge of those zoning classifications. This amendment, the way we've got it written, and that would be effective the first of the year. And if it passes the county board tonight, our office would do a town memo and get it out to those 3 towns and notify them and that what's coming. And that's hopefully they got time to make any changes that they need to. So that's kind of the reason why it's before you now.
Any questions for Jason?
Is this let's see, previous to this proposal, with these 3 townships with their own zoning required to comply with more restrictive county zoning for shoreline?
It's whichever is more restrictive, and that is what would apply. And that, however, these towns don't have their own zoning districts within the shoreline area because the county has been taking care of that. And we, in the past, only had a shoreline general purpose zoning classification, but it was May 1st of 2020 that we took and went back to having the general zoning classifications in the shoreline area, because that was originally part of the county's comprehensive rewrite that took effect in 2016. And we did that then, and then there was some state law changes that said we can't do it. And then January 3rd of 2020, the Attorney General came on and said, no, you can put general zoning classifications in the shoreline area. And that's when we worked with the committee and that said, hey, do you really want to do this? And that's when they said yes. So that's where it's kind of a new thing. It's only been around for 1.5 years and that of even having general zoning classifications in our shoreline area. And that's where we ran into the issues in that with having duplicate zoning classifications on a property. Because right now, if you're in those 3 towns, the county might say it's residential ag 5 and a town, and that may say, well, in our comprehensive plan, that should be a commercially zoned property, but we can't zone it commercial to meet our comprehensive plan because the county is the one that's.
Does that say that these 3 townships can do whatever they want to do?
Well, and that they would be the ones administering any use
They want to
regulation.
put a high rise right next to the body of water. There's nothing that says they can't do that.
Well, NR 115 limits the height to 35 feet within the shoreline area. So within 1,000 feet of a lake or pond, the max height is 35 feet, which would be administered through us. Yep, correct. It's Wisconsin Administrative Code NR 115. That's the only thing that we basically be enforcing. The DNR got a model ordinance that basically provides those basic guidelines or the minimum shoreline zoning standards. That's basically what we would be enforcing in those 3 towns. And that the county, with having our own shoreline provisions, as, you know, throughout the years, customized it to fit our lakes and our tourist rooming house provisions. And we've got a provision in there for swine cables being prohibited within 1,000 feet. So, but that would now be, you know, limited to what the towns want.
Supervisor Pritchard, that was 2 questions, so I'm gonna move on. John, do you have a question?
Mr. Wall, I think also in the middle of the town of Farmington, there were some storage buildings built, which you originally had control of, and now in that transfer, that's transferred to the one of the 3 towns authority. Correct.
Correct. That would be taken care of by the town. Yep.
That just makes sense. So thanks for the update.
We would, and that going forward, so like if a town makes an amendment, you've seen several of them come through the county board for the town of St. Croix Falls. And any amendment that they make to their zoning ordinance language or their map amendments, and that for like a rezone, and that those would be approved at the county board. But I mean, so far the county board has put those on their consent agenda, and that we run it through the committee. It's only basically an oversight to make sure that everything's with the county's comprehensive plan aligns with it.
Jason, could you, how was this was voted on in environmental services? And what was the vote? Unanimous, okay. Supervisor Middleton?
I appreciate this attempt to try and get things consistent. Full appreciation for that. And I'm wondering if, so I'm looking at a lot of this language except for, you know, except for towns, farm animals, blah, 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 except for towns, all the things that they're except. So basically, houses, 1,000 unit setbacks, all the things that you mentioned earlier, garages, blah, blah, blah. The county has no say in that. So all this stuff that says accept is really up to the town to decide. So they may come in and say 500 feet for a bunkhouse, or they may say 5,000 feet for a bunkhouse, correct? Am I understanding that correctly? And they may say with the swine farming, that 100 units shall be not be prohibited.
One thing.
I want to make sure I was understanding.
Yep, exactly. And that, yep, the towns will have control to take and change that however they see fit. So, yep.
And does anything at the state level kick in on any of this stuff that would stop a town from doing something that?
Well, but the ordinance does have to be approved by the DNR. So that, if it's approved tonight, then we will submit it to the DNR for their approval.
No, but at the town level. So if we pass this, but then at the town level, they decide to say a bunkhouse can be 5,000 square feet. Or swines can be within the shoreland, 1,000 animals within the shoreland. There's not another.
Those amendments and that they want to take and do have to come back to the town, you know, and that. So
The
like
town's amendments would have to come back to the county?
Town's amendments come back to the county, and that, very similar to how St. Croix Falls has done it in the past, and that where they give us memo, you know, of what the changes are, and then usually it's got a resolution or an ordinance that tied to it that they have passed at the town level. We run that through committee and so, but I plan on providing a list of every change in that they might want to address, like tourist rooming houses, swine cables, anything like that. Bunkhouses, and say, hey, just so you know, these are not going to be regulated by the county anymore, and that these are going to be the responsibility of the town, and basically that they can handle them how they want.
So do you think that this is good for lake water quality or lakes?
We're careful about that.
It could end up to be more restrictive than the county if the town.
I don't think we should be asking staff's opinion on it. Okay, is there any other questions, Jason, on this? Mike, you've already had 2 questions, so I'm gonna just double check with everyone first. Okay, yes.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Since I'm on the town board of the town of St. Croix Falls, we do have a zoning ordinance that addresses all of the things we've been discussing about here. We have, our zoning ordinance was written, the CAFO stuff part when it was written in the 90s, I believe. So there'll never be CAFOs as large as they're talking about in the town of St. Croix Falls, because it's superseded.
You're more restrictive
More-
already.
Yep, we're already more restrictive than the county. And we have several lakes in our town. People are really cautious about what's going on in the lakes. The board is really cautious when they're making changes to the ordinances. And like Jason said, they have to come through here and be approved. I mean, every change to an ordinance or our zone, our zoning at all has to be approved through here. So I think we're pretty safe there.
It's still, the county still, Jason, correct us if we're wrong. I mean, some of the supervisors here are representing municipalities. I have Village of Balsam Lake and the Village of Milltown. Balsam Lake has a lake. They regulate everything themselves already. So municipalities, supervisors that, have them, they don't go to county zoning for anything already. So.
I got one more comment.
Okay, so one more.
And you're right, Sharon. The town of Farmington, they became their own zoning entity because they can be more restrictive. And if you look at these three towns that and I have, they are more restrictive than the county in a lot of ways, correct? Yep. You don't have to worry, Mike, about these. These towns are local control, and their local control is usually, the purpose was to be more restrictive.
Supervisor O'Connell.
Just for another comment. The other overlapping is that each one's commercial district is not the same as the county's one. County would have like 72 things you could do in a commercial district. St. Croix Falls, I think, only has 32. I think Farmington has 28 or something. So I mean, that was where a lot of stuff was happening. Where they would come to the county, they'd get a permit, say, and build a storage unit in Farmington, but they really shouldn't have put it where it was. Or they have one that has different uses right on Highway 35 in St. Croix Falls, where they can park things outside where they shouldn't have been able to.
I should have brought.
So that's some of the things that we looked at.
All right, I think we've talked enough about it. I appreciate it, Jason. It's gone through committee. We've had enough questions. Is it a substantial question, Mike, that's different?
Well, it's a follow-up to an earlier one that.
You've already had two. You're only allowed to have two questions. I'll grant you the third one. Go ahead.
I'm speaking hypothetically, not with reference to whether a township is restricted. This gets adopted and accepts out these three townships. If I understand correctly, if they do something, they still have to come back to the county to have approval for what they do.
County would still issue a land use permit, but for example, let's say the town of St. Croix Falls says, we only want a boat house to be 10 by 10 max. Whereas right now the county's 14 by 26. Then we would just issue the permit, but they would have to follow the town requirements. So
But the question, I didn't make the question, the question, if they make a change because they're accepted out to the county, where is it spelled out what criteria the county uses in reviewing? And I guess the county has the authority to accept the.
need to follow the county's comprehensive plan, and that, or if it wasn't, lawful and that with the county policy, and that would be the only other reason.
Right, I think I appreciate everything, Jason. We're not going to get in a big discussion here tonight. We're here to vote on a resolution. I really appreciate what you're doing. We could talk all night about this or that. So we've had a first and a second. We're going to call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimous. Thanks, Jason. Now we are on resolution 5821, resolution support of agriculture and a county ad hoc agriculture committee. This also came out of environmental services. Who's going to speak on this? Do we have, how about if we have a motion to bring it to the floor? Warndall, seconded by Olson. It's up for discussion. Can someone tell us what this is about?
Yes, I can.
Who?
Brad.
Brad?
So I worked with John on this somewhat. So we've heard a lot of things over the last few years, but one thing we've never heard is we don't support the family farm. And I think it is just nice and appropriate for the county board to say that we do support the family farm. Supervisor Bonaprise has been after an ad hoc ag committee for
Ever since we went to central
a
government.
long time. So we worked together, came up with this. And I think me and John agree it puts us on the right track.
Questions? Anyone? Supervisors have questions? Supervisor Middleton, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If I read like number 1 and number 2, so it's ag producer less than 499 acres of crops. That would encompass, I don't know, some of the small CSA farmers that we
In
hear.
the,
here.
in there,
Right.
large
Yeah.
and small.
Yeah.
That splits it.
And I appreciate the comment of Mr. Wester. I think it's gotten out in
Go ahead, John.
and it's really what our rural people in the county and people that are aware of our situation, that agriculture doesn't have a voice anymore. Since we went to central government and our ag committee was just eliminated. And there's a lot of things, this is only going to take effect when there's something that we deem that they should address and give us some input on. Because agriculture is one of our main dollars in Polk County, and there's no voice, and this really says it all, and I think satisfied with what the people are really need. and
So
are
was this,
lacking.
how was this voted on in committee, Chair?
Says neutral.
So it came with no recommendation?
Yes.
I believe, if I may, the reason there was no quorum, there was not a quorum, so there was not an ability to put it forward
Sure,
only on that one issue. So,
because there wasn't a quorum.
so it wasn't that there was neutral because they wanted neutral, it was
Sure.
just a function of.
Any other questions? Supervisor Pritchard, go ahead.
Can anyone give any background on how this 499 acres and 499 animal units was selected? When I was a young person, still a pretty sizable operation.
So with Supervisor Olson, are you or John, who wants to comment on that?
I can take that. It was a number picked out of thin air. When you were a child, that was a sizable operation. Today, I'm a nobody and I'm bigger. I fit in the top category. And I'm a nobody. I don't fit there in animal units. I fit there in acres. And so, yeah, it's different than when you were a kid, Mike, and it's different than when I was a kid.
John, or no, Amy, you have the next question.
I was just wondering, I'm just thinking of the PTAG process, how and who will
Yes.
According to this statute, or this resolution, I would suspect it would be a similar process in advertising. I'd also take names from any supervisor and then evaluate, meet with them or decide. And then, but remember, it all gets approved, I believe, by the full board. So I think PTAG, I just named them. That was it. Whereas this one, it actually has to be approved.
Supervisor O'Connell?
And also, this is gonna be, they won't be put in place until we need them.
Correct.
Set terms and stuff. I mean, we won't do it now and have them sit and do nothing for 2 years or a year. It's when we need it, then they get a process.
Sure. Supervisor Pritchard, you had one more?
And just a comment, I think we've heard from a lot of people making public comments that I presume are bona fide, consider themselves bona fide small farmers who have operations that are probably quite a bit lower than the $4.99. Could be wrong, I have no idea.
Mr. Chairman, I called for the question.
Paul, Supervisor Rowdy, go ahead, you take your hand.
Oh, yeah, well, the representative from the FSA committee at this time, Justin Wood, would be the chair of the committee, but it would be that person, if Justin Wood, whoever the representative to our Environmental Services Committee out of FSA is, would be the chairman of that.
A question called.
Point of clarification, I just want to make sure if I may. It says 8 committee members, but with Justin, that would make 9. If it still says 8 now, that's just 8.
Okay, question's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimous. General Government Committee, review policy recommendation to general fund balance. Chad's gonna keep it really short.
We'll pull that up, Dave.
We got a video?
Just gonna keep it, no, just really short one. So the question was asked, we brought before general government, our present policy is 20% of unassigned fund balance is our reserve, meaning that the administrator cannot drop below it. Or if he does, yes, he or she has to come up with a plan, bring it back up. It's been that way for a significant period of time. The question was, should it still be that way? Fund balance has been growing, but it's not out of line with what other counties are at. We did a survey of other counties to see what their policy was, where they were sitting. This is just kind of a hierarchical graph of who's sitting where. In Polk County, we have a healthy fund balance in comparison to the surveyed ones, we're at 63. So presently, our fund balance is 17,700,000 and change. It grew a lot last year. COVID, we pulled a lot back. We had a lot of aid, so it grew at a really high rate, 3.8 million. So I ran 3 different scenarios for the committee. What if our reserve policy was 30%, 40%, or 50%? First line is of that 17.7, how much we would have to keep and be unspendable. The second is the available beyond that would be, allowed to be expended. The committee recommended 40%, which means we would keep 11,157,685 on reserve. And you'd have available excess for, board approved projects, fund balance expenditures of 6.5 million. Now those numbers will change based on what the unassigned fund balance is. And that number is based on the prior year's audit. Presently, at the end of 2020, our unassigned fund balance was 17.7. It is not 20% of our overall budget, it's 20% of our unassigned fund balance, which is money that's not statutorily or resolution or board consensus designated for. So what I'm looking for, General Government Committee recommended 40% for the new policy. In December, we bring the financial policies and personnel policies back before general government, back before the board. We're looking for an overall recommendation from the board so that when I redraft the policies in December, you guys will formally adopt the policy.
Yes, General Government Chair Arcan, this came out of General Government with recommendation to go for a consensus. It was a consensus. Okay, and this will be coming back with a resolution next month.
It'll come back with policies and a resolution for next month.
This is just kind of basically an update to supervisors that general government's working on this.
And to let me know what direction.
Got it?
Dr. Chad, just for a question, this would maintain or increase our bond rating?
This would probably, I mean, that's a little hard to say because your bond rating is based on a lot of things, but it's not gonna hurt our bond rating by any point. The more cash you have
At least
available,
maintain it.
yeah, the more cash you have available, the more
And
favorable.
that's
you are.
extremely important in that bond rating.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, resolution 57-21, resolution to make capital improvements to emergency communication, Justice Center, museum building using ARPA funds. Do we have a motion to bring it to the floor? So move. Treasurer Wendell, seconded by Middleton. Any further discussion? With someone, maybe Sharon, you were the author of this,
Yep.
correct?
Yep. So we have 4.2 million in the general fund right now. Well, we did, and then we allocated 1.6 to the recycling center. This resolution looks at, when I put it together, I was looking at board priorities. And public safety, it was top of mind, so the communication towers and the repeating tower, those two towers, I thought were extremely important. Listening and talking with Sheriff Walk and Dan Rose, they had the details, were able to provide the details, and they'll be able to answer more detailed questions about either one of those two items. The other thing that we had and I know somebody had brought up capital improvement, what's in our capital improvement plan, like the roof for the Justice Center is 1.1 million. Well, it's in the capital improvement plan, but it's not slated to be replaced till 2025. Well, it's leaking. And it's a building that's used every day. It houses prisoners, it has our courtrooms, and it's leaking, and it's 2021. I think it's important that we take this opportunity to tick that one off the list and get it done. The same with the museum bell tower. That's not on the capital improvement plan, and that's something I asked Mo to look at because it's unsafe. And that we own the building, the county owns the building, and that's on the National Historic Register. We can't just tear that bell tower down. We're required to maintain and upkeep that building based on the fact that it's on the National Register. That 150,000 is nowhere in the capital improvement plan. And at our Health and Human Services, listening to Bill Oliva, we did talk about the importance also of the communication command center. No, and I think it's a good idea to update that communication command center too, and that's to the tune of about 550,000. But two things there. One is this 4.2 million right now is in the general fund, so we're able to allocate it to things like the recycling center and doing these four things I mentioned. The next 4.2 million, there's no guarantee that that's going to be able to go into the general fund to be used how we see fit. I see that as an opportunity around the command center two ways. One, we'd have a better chance of getting a command center through ARPA funds based on the fact that it's health related and safety related from the sheriff's department area. If those funds are not allocated to the general fund, we can't use them for things like recycling centers or roofs or those types of things. So and then the second thing around the command center is, and I don't know because I haven't talked to you guys about this part, but have we looked at, when we look up backups, that command center, until we started using it for the COVID clinics and stuff, it was, it's not used that often. It's never had to be used, as far as I know, for a backup. And we do have an agreement with a neighboring county. If the call center goes down here for 911, calls can be routed through there. So it isn't the only backup for the 911 call center. I don't know if we need I think we need a mobile command center. I just don't know what it looks like. I mean, that's 20 years old. what's available now for command centers beside, why replace it with the exact same thing? There may be something out there that is way better technology and way better use for a command center. I don't know. I think we need one. I think we should replace it. But I think the time to do that, so let's take our time, figure out exactly what it is that we want for that and use that in the next batch of ARPA funds. I think these other things, I don't think we can afford to have that roof at the Justice Center wait another 4 years. As Mo said, it's leaking. And it's not going to cost us 1.1 million if we wait 4 years. That number will go up. And this, and I don't know that there's any question that we have to do the radio towers and the repeating tower. That's a safety issue. I mean, you saw the letter from the mayor of St. Croix Falls. Everyone that I've talked to about that all agree that needs to be done. It's, Dan's got some booklets he can pass out about it, but it's like 16 or 17 years old.
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
Sharon, it's gone.
Gone. Don, sorry.
I know he gets called a lot of things every day.
Don, he does. I had the wrong phone. Sorry. Anyway, so we have a lot of information. All the estimates are in. Don has done a really good job getting the estimates down because it originally started out at 400 something. It's down to 350 now to get that repeating tower down. So that's my 2 cents. I see these as countywide. This serves the whole county, these things.
Supervisor O'Connell.
Well, I hate to break the bubble, but I thought we were gonna have a process and do this. So I would like to do, to do all of these. We have these lists, we have a capital improvement plan. Now we're nitpicking a few little things here and there. Probably shouldn't have done the recycling. I'm thinking that we should have a committee of the whole to go through all of these things. There's a lot of things that have to be on here. So I almost think we should be waiting the next meeting to do this. We can amend our budget at any time. But we should go through all this stuff. It's like you said in here, there's still $2 million. Let's get our stuff together then and do them all.
So Supervisor O'Connell, the one thing is you have to make a motion to postpone this to a date certain. So you just can't ask for us to do that.
Well, I'll make the motion and see if I get a second.
We're still in discussion right now. Can we just finish the discussion before you?
Sure.
Just hold you back just a sec.
Yep.
There's a couple of their hands up. Supervisor Bonaprise.
Was chair of the Health and Human Services, Sharon brought this to our agenda. And our final recommendation after a lot of discussion was of those 5 things, we recommended the 2 emergency towers. And then our next recommendation was to substitute the Justice Center roof. That's a flat roof. Yeah, a flat roof needs attention and some work every year, but from my experience, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years.
Well, and I'll just throw something in there. Before I was on the board, I know some of you guys were here and you know how expensive, how much money the county paid to tear down a building. As soon as you got a building leaking, we weren't supposed to talk about mold anymore in Polk County, but we don't need to deal with that again.
But we
So
did
that was
recommend
that was a
the command
comment.
center.
Thank you for the comment.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the resolution? And then we could take an amendment. Connor wants to try some. Amy, do you have any questions about this?
Question, but I have a motion. So if this,
We first.
do it after
Kim-
him.
Yeah. Kim, you have an amendment you want to make?
I would like to make a motion to postpone this till the next for our next committee meeting of the whole, at the full board.
Yeah, what?
At our next meeting, that we could go through.
Yeah, it needs a second to at least discuss it.
That would be,
So that's your motion, is to extend it to the next county board.
yeah, to then to all the things that we
Okay,
can put on.
Supervisor Rowdy seconded that. So now there can be a discussion about. So tell us why you want to wait.
So that we can go through all of this stuff. Some of this just keeps coming bits and pieces, and I thought we were gonna go through the process.
Sure.
that we would go through all of these
That
at
we were
once.
too, but last month, Supervisor Duncanson
We did
decided
it
not to
wrong
follow the
once,
process.
doesn't mean we have to do it again. Wrong.
I don't know if it
That's
was
what I'm
wrong,
thinking.
it's just not maybe what you thought.
Yeah, I didn't think that
Sure.
was the process. Yeah.
Right, I get it.
The wrong was should have been a capital improvement project.
Supervisor
But they
Middleton?
didn't.
Okay, hold on, we just got a Supervisor Middleton?
Yeah, I had the same conversation at Health and Human. That was one of the things that I asked Vince. I said, we're being asked in these different committees to look at these priorities. And then all of a sudden we've got the resolutions are using it up. So-
Just like we did last month.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Everyone voted last month to do it that way, so now this month you want to do it different. It's hard for me as a chair to sit here and listen to this conversation. Where last month, everyone voted to change the process with Supervisor Duncan's resolution, and now this month, you guys don't want to change the process. The public is looking at us going, what are you guys doing?
we did it with the lime quarry money too. All of a sudden, the lime quarry money went for one thing. And
That was
that's
my
it.
vote.
Yeah, you were the only one, John. Okay, so I'm gonna call on the question of postponing it. So do we need a roll call vote on that?
I
Or
don't think so.
no? Okay, so let's listen closely. So the vote of yes is to postpone it till next month as a committee of the whole.
Against all of
And a vote no is to move forward with this resolution. So I'm going to ask for the supervisors to say they want to deal with this resolution tonight. I'm going to change. Can I say that way or not? Do I have to, so we have to say it's waiting a month. Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor of waiting a
these.
month?
Wait, what's our next meeting?
December.
December, it'll be a month and a week.
So in December county board meeting, you want to have a committee of the whole to go over this resolution.
No, to go over all the funding
When we do it,
for the process.
when we hold it, the resolution's still going to be on that board agenda?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that would still stay,
That
but
would
I
still
mean,
stay.
I'd like to get all the stuff on.
gotcha. Okay. So that's the question then.
Yeah.
All in favor of waiting a month? Say aye. Motion failed.
Wait, no.
Nobody voted no.
Huh?
Nobody voted no.
I said, well, okay, I didn't hear a majority vote aye, so I'll go, how many?
Let's have a roll call
Roll
then.
call.
Okay, roll call. Don't put it on to me to figure that out.
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't a very loud.
This time we start with Brad Olson. Doug Rowdy. Steve Warndall.
No.
Tracy LeBlanc. Dan Rook.
No.
Mike Pritchard.
Yes.
Aaron Kelly. O'Connell.
Yes.
Middleton. Jay Lou.
Yes.
Arkin. John Bonaprise.
Yes.
Do you want to vote?
What is the vote?
7 yeses and
The motion's approved that we wait till next month and do it and committee of the whole. Okay. Move on.
Can I ask,
Now, Zach, go ahead.
well, what's the process we're going to use to
Well,
evaluate?
that's not on the agenda tonight to discuss that.
That's,
You know, that's the administrators.
takes to go through them all, but this will still be there.
Okay, so that resolution 5821 is just at a future date now.
57.
Or excuse me, 5721. Presentation of administrator's budget.
Here we go.
Good evening. I would, first of all, let me just say, this is coming to the end of a long, hard process from the staff point of view, and I want to thank Chad especially.
his staff has done an outstanding job, as well as the directors and the department heads who've all worked everything up to the top. And believe me, they deserve a ton of credit for the work they do, and the fact that we got it to you a couple of months in advance. And I think you've all seen these things probably at least 2 times, and we've discussed them. So I just wanted to go over some of the highlights here. You have the presentation in front of you, and you'll see here the areas of focus that we'll touch on briefly. Okay. The overall budget recommendation. We're going to talk about the property tax and levy, changes in the general fund, personnel initiatives, capital expenditures, and throughout we'll be talking about some of the assumptions and the challenges we consider as we put this together. 2022 operating capital budget recommendation. First of all, let me touch on the strategy. We've had a couple of good years and several good years lately looking at contributing to back to our general fund, coming in under budget. And our strategy, really, we don't want to change. We want to stay conservative. We like the position we're in as a county, how we're improving. We also think we're in a position where we can start targeting funds in areas that you determine are important. So we're trying to be conservative so that we can be flexible in our decisions, try to align them with the board priorities. One of the challenges immediately, every day, every time we talk about this is come in, hold your expenses flat, then come to me and justify why you're asking for additional projects. So that's the approach that we take. The proposed or the outcome, balance, it's a balanced budget excluding any county board additions. Those are the things that the committees went through. And the nice thing is, as you know, last year we put in a considerable amount back into the unassigned general fund. And, any additions that we have, I'll show you later, won't come close to that. Levy spending going to be below the maximum allowed. The reason we can say that is we did not use the unused levy from last year. Didn't use all the levy last year. We tried to keep the taxes down, and by state statute, we are allowed to use those this year or in future years. We decided not to, because when you use those, somebody's got to pay for them, right? The taxpayer. But the lower levy means that we have a lower mill rate, and again, it allows some flexibility. FTEs have been dropping until this year. We did go up slightly. It's basically flat, but it's in some key areas that I'll address here going forward. Okay, this is a look at our equalized value. What this says is every year our equalized value here in the county goes up. In other words, the wealth of our citizens goes up if they have property. Value is going up. And as you can see, we increased substantially again and for the 2022 budget year. It's an increase of $460 million. So as the property values increase, that allows us to lower the mill rate.
Can you state that again, Mr. Administrator?
As
That's
property
pretty amazing.
values go up and equalized value is determined by the state formula.
The figure.
As that goes up, the mill rate comes down.
I mean, the figure, what was it,
460 million.
Thank you.
You've seen this one. I apologize. You can look at it closely. I presented this, I think, at every committee. The thing I'll point out, you'll see our tax rate, mill rate last year was 4.27%. Whereas this year, or 4.27, that's per $1,000. This year it's 3.904. The other thing I'll point out is net new construction went up $269,000. That's nothing to sneeze at, is it? But just so you know, we're still just scratching the surface with that. What makes our net new construction go up are things like housing, new construction of houses, new businesses, factories come into the area. When that happens, that allows us to add to the levy amounts that we have. It also brings in sales tax. It also brings in people, business, income for families that work there. that type of thing. And I'll just point out again, the proposed levy of 22.64 million, $335,000 less than what it could be because we're not using our unused portion from last year. This is a picture of the decreasing mill rate, just so you can see it visually. It has been going down every year, and substantial drop in 2022. Question always comes up, how are we doing on sales tax? This is one of those where, as an administrator or as a staff, we look at, we have no crystal balls, right? We can't predict, but we do look at trends. We've been very pleased with the increase in sales tax. As you know, with the COVID outbreak, the last year and the year before, we've seen some jumps in sales here in Polk County. Maybe it's because people from the cities are staying over here. Maybe people here are not traveling to the cities to shop, but I think it's helped our businesses to some extent because our sales tax continues to increase. So in 2020, the actual sales tax came in at about 3.9 million. This year, we're projecting, it's trending up above that. It looks like it'll be about 4 million. So we budget for 2022, 4.05 million. A little more aggressive with that. You know, that used to be the fluff number where we could just keep it low. That way we're sure we're coming under. We're trying to be more accurate and be more responsible in how we budget.
Huge change.
Supreme Court. This is just a look at our general fund balance. Chad mentioned this, and I wanted Chad to go over that a little bit with you because we don't want there to be confusion. As you all vote on this budget, you know, sometimes people may not realize that, well, we've got money in our general fund, we can't use all of it, nor do we want to, unless we have to. But in 2019, our overall general fund was at 21 million. 20, it went up 3 million. In fact, if you look at the unassigned increase, it went up 3.8 million. So we had a very good year last year in terms of the unassigned general fund. So now, as Chad mentioned, we're required to have a 20% cushion there. In 2020, the unassigned percentage was 63.5. Now, I don't know if you got a chance to see it. Chad went through it quickly, but you saw that Polk County was near the top in terms of that percentage. That's a good feeling. We're happy that that's the case because that gives us that rainy day fund for some emergency that might come up, an economy crashes, whatever it might be, we at least have some funds in there. What it also means is we can begin looking at what should that amount be and do we want to target it for certain areas that are game changers, as we call them, or things that will help the future of this county. By going to each committee, this is where we presented the things to you and which of the supervisor optional items to amend or add were considered. And 2 committees came back with some recommendations. That page is in front of you. If you look at that, the Environmental Services Committee at the top recommended some changes. Now, this also includes 1.45 million for the PTAG approved project. Recall, not all of that is coming from general fund, but 900,000 or so will be coming from the funds that were left over from the sale of the lime quarry. But then the rest would come from fund balance. You see some other projects there. I won't read them all to you. And the general government approved some of these items. And of course, the resolution for the recycling center has already passed. So that's 1.62 million. That will be coming out of ARPA funds. So when you come down here at the bottom and you'll see all the different things that were approved by these committees, the total fund balance that will be used to fund all of these is $973,000. Trail Fund, 900,000, as I mentioned. And then ARPA fund so far dedicated is 1.62 million to go to the recycling fund. Now, Finance Director cringes when we talk about taking money out of the general fund, as he should. I'm glad he does. The good news is that 973,000, is about a third or less than a third of what we added to our general fund last year. So I don't feel too terrible about it. But I'm like Chad, it's like, I always caution, let's be careful and let's be selective in what we choose to spend it on going forward.
Administrator, are you okay taking a couple questions on this? Sure.
On this one page, so we might have been a little late to the party on this, but Health and Human Services the other day already made a motion to fund the command center. Is that something that can go in here? What was the process? And because Health and Human's not up there, did we not say anything or what? Did we not raise our hand?
No, the command center from the rest, what was discussed in the meeting was actually to be considered as an amendment to Sharon's resolution.
No, his resolution specifically said, I don't care how you fund it. His motion, Dr. Lagas, was, I don't care how you fund it, if it's general fund or ARPA. We think there should be a command center. All in favor, and everybody, that was unanimous.
That was unanimous.
So it had nothing to do with ARPA. He said, whatever, however you guys want to do it, make it happen.
Right.
So can Health and Human be up there and have command center under it?
If that's something that this board can decide, if that's something you want to fund.
Well, the committee already decided it, so could it get on there as a board?
Maybe it's my misunderstanding. I thought it was.
Yeah, please. Who wants to speak to this? Chad?
So at this point, these,
I know.
the committees, these are the additions to the budget for the board consideration as put forward by the administrator. The command center was not part of those as put forward. At this point, these are what's put forward by the committee, either recommended, there's a couple things already adopted, they're just on your recycling center and the PTAC. This board has to agree with the committees and say, yeah, we're going to incorporate all these into the budget. And then you can also make any other amendments beyond what the administrator put forward for your consideration, such as your command center or anything else, to go into the general fund on it tonight. So if you want to make an amendment to the resolution, you can do that.
The resolution we'll discuss after this.
Let me get there. Yeah, if you want to make an amendment tonight to add something, you can make an amendment. That's how it's handled.
That's what we did last year on our drug investigator.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Because to be clear, except for the recycling center and the PTAG, nothing on that sheet is presently in the budget until the board adopts it. The recycling center and PTAG have been adopted by the board via resolution.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay. So now go to the capital improvement.
Okay, Supervisor Olson had a question for you. Sorry.
Yeah, just as the lone holdout in environmental services, I think the county's getting ripped off on the $90,000 flake.
You can make a amendment here in a little bit if you think we're getting ripped off on that.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. In front of you, you have the capital improvement plan. Again, this has been presented to you. The only difference, I believe, would be we've included anything that has been passed. So the 2.6 recycling improvement, and then also the PTAG project, yes, we've already discussed.
How come that says 1.684 here, but back here it says 1.45 for PTA?
Because we looked at what we would spend probably in 2022. Spend it all, even though that's approved for that.
I thought we agreed to do the top 6 projects, but on the capital improvement plan, they've got every project that was practically listed on the thing.
That, so Bo, Bob, and I sat down. That's actually the top 6 projects, but what they did is you guys combined a couple of those projects into one, and maybe Bob or Mo can explain it better, but like one went from planning to construction, one went from planning to construction. But what we did is we just broke it out on the capital plan to match the P-TAG report. It's the stuff you approved, it just matches the project. You want to clarify that at all? 'Cause it was-
Overall, there's 15 projects, trail projects being implemented over the next 3 years. Total cost, estimated cost for all those projects are 1. So what we did in the capital improvement plan is put all those expenditures in 1 year. Highly unlikely we'll implement them all. The next year, we have the same budget discussion. Alex could discuss whether or not the subsequent year, or the following year after. Just a way to put a placeholder on funds.
I would think that's good business because prices go up all the time. And so if you get a chance to do that in the long run, you're saving money doing it this way. I think you need credit for that.
I'm trying to remember when we made the decision. I mean, we took all the Lime Corps money and gave it to the Parks and Trails. And there's 900 and some thousand there. And all of a sudden now we approved them to spend 1.45 million.
Another 550,000 from the general fund.
And we approved, this board approved it.
Yep. That was the resolution last month.
1.45 million. Okay.
Yes.
Must have been sleeping.
That's why we're doing business first now and talking afterwards. Our agenda changed.
Just some of the highlights that I'll touch on it, because there's a lot of numbers there, obviously. But for 2022, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit later tonight, just to give you an overview of how we're proceeding with the mechanical update. We've included in there the 7.7 million government center mechanical update. Haven't decided yet how we're going to pay for it. We've got various options there. 30,000 for roofing and painting of the fairgrounds building, 13,000 for the museum bathrooms, cycling center, highway obviously is big every year. They've got equipment they go through every year, and you have road projects. Trails improvements and repairs at multiple parks. IT, very important. We've got some hardware items that are needed, firewall issues, server refresh. And that's one of the things that I'll say this county has done extremely well the last couple of years, from being really back in the caveman ages with our IT. Scott Good, Chad, and folks in that IT department have really increased our safety. They've caught up in all of our software agreements and contracts, and we are working to improve our security in all phases there. Continue to invest in that just to get us caught up. Law enforcement, of course, takes a chunk in terms of vehicle software and body cameras. County clerk software, happy to, and we've mentioned this to you in the past, this is going to help her office be much more efficient, probably help us keep headcount down, and it will be a better tool for the public as they search for minutes and they search for discussion topics. They can take the minutes much quicker, and it will direct people to the actual conversation. So we think that's a very wise investment. For the last thing here, 55,000 for the reception area, community services division. That's really kind of a security, safety thing. It's efficiencies to get people in and out of there in an appropriate way. Those are some of the highlights. Yes.
Is that 55,000? That's not included in the 7.7 remodel?
No. This is something when we looked at the way we're set up and the way people come in, it's something that needed to be done. So I approved that, or I put it. The other thing, and this is something I said now for 2 years, the most important asset we have is our people. Our pay raise, people are always asking, what's it going to be this year? 2.9%, 2.5%. last year. And that's based on how we compare. We look at inflation, we look at other national numbers. We also look at what the average wage increases are, both private and public. So that's the appropriate amount there. Keeping benefits responsible. We are reducing employee health premiums. Again, I think you've seen what we did last year in terms of the health insurance excess fund we had. We're able to lower health premiums by about $30 to $60 per person. We are also, as a county, increasing our HSA contribution. Encourage people in that HSA health plan. Improving our orthodontics a little bit, a little better coverage there. And we're introducing a pilot tuition reimbursement plan. This is for retention. We're having right now a leadership training seminar because we want to improve and enhance our succession management. We feel we have talent right in this building. Challenge is developing those people. And, as I've said many times, I ask people, what do you want to do after this job? And I say, well, I'll wait until my boss retires or dies, and then maybe I'll get their job. What we're trying to do is develop our people so that they can take courses that will make them better prepared, not only work in their current department, but future departments. So this is a pilot program where we will reimburse if it's something that's going to help the county. Yeah.
It says that the Golden Age Manor and WPPA do not get raises, or is it in their budgets?
It's different. WPPA is the union, and we negotiate that, and we still haven't finalized that. In terms of, Golden Age Manor, they're an enterprise fund. They have to generate a profit to get a pay raise. That's in their business model. We'll be deciding that. We'll get those numbers here in a few months, see if they're eligible. Now, we do have flexibility because of what's happening with COVID and nursing markets and so on. We've actually, and they made a profit last year, we actually were able to go back and give them a raise last year throughout the year to kind of keep those folks in their jobs and keep them competitive with the market right around them. Again, I'll reinforce this because I talk to leadership of this county every month. Things that I want to talk to them about is, again, succession management, importance of leadership, and developing people for future jobs. And that's something that when I was with the EDC, we saw too many people leave the county, or when we had an opening, we put out some search firm to find somebody to bring them in. We want to do is develop people inside this building. Less expensive, more efficient, they have better knowledge of the county, and they're attached to this. And the other thing too, you're going to see, and we're working on this now, we're enhancing our performance management process. And what that will do is we coach people to be better communicators with their staff. We're going to coach them to stretch people. We're going to differentiate people in a sense that we can recognize people for doing an exceptional job and coach those who maybe are below expectations, coach them up to get them up to acceptable levels where appropriate. Controlling FTE counts, just so you know, and while we had a slight increase this year, I can say that we are implementing different things. I know in the sheriff's department, they do a better job, or they have field reporting now where the sheriffs can do voice recognition software, which prevents them from coming and spending time in the office or using staff inside the office to do some of their reports. We also, the software in the clerk's office, again, we think that helps with the head count. There are some things we can do to invest in technology. Here's the overall picture of the head count. Total employees, just under 412. If you take GAM, they're 80 employees out. We're at 300, almost 331. That's up less than 2 from last year, but you can see last few years we've kind of been flat, keeping it down for the most part. We had a minor increase this year. Now, what I will say, that increase came in the form of a data analyst. Call them in the IT department because they will be good at analyzing data, understanding the computer and how it calculates all these things. But it's not going to be used simply by IT. It's going to be used by the sheriff's department. They're the ones that initially requested it. We also, in our community services division, when you look at all the data that they process in terms of health and COVID and so on, we think that they're going to be used there. But that person will be used throughout the organization. And then finally, because of the increased emphasis on IT and computers and upgraded software and the importance of being online all the time, we are adding almost a whole headcount as a help desk specialist in our IT department. Give you an idea, kind of this is a page that Chad recommended, and I thought, well, that's a good idea to show the really one picture of what we're talking about here with the county budget. Total budget, 68.4 million. That's what our revenues will be. You'll see a net surplus there. That's mainly due, almost exclusively due to the Clam Falls Dam. The fact that we're getting $2 million, but we won't spend all of that in 2020. Library funding, in case people always ask, they didn't come and request any more funding this year, but we do fund them a substantial amount of over $1 million. That's 95% of their total expenses. Mentioned sales tax, total debt payment will be flat, regardless of what we do in terms of financing the mechanical work here. We will make sure that the debt payment stays flat. What that does is guarantees the taxpayer do not see wild fluctuations. Keep that debt payment flat. That enables us flexibility again with some of those funds in our general. So final takeaways that I'll leave you with: balanced budget excluding any county board additions. Levy spending is below the maximum allowed. Mill rate is down. We have some flexibility. Do some things that you decide are important. FTEs are nearly flat despite the substantial increase in budget and programs, parks and trails, and those types of things. Happy to take any more questions. Yes, Mr. Pritchard. That's all right.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. This one you were just going through. This one has November 9th, capital improvement plan recommendation. And there was yet another unlabeled one here.
We discussed those in committees, and the first one here, the capital improvements plan, that was included in that total packet that you were provided a month ago or so. And so we just updated a couple of minor things in there that we talked about in terms of resolutions that were passed. This here that Mr. Pritchard's talking about is what they call the Collins report. Remember Maggie? He was very big on this, and it shows every department in the county. As you go across, it's summarized on the front page. And then at the bottom, it will show you the FTEs in each department. So that's how we keep track every year of what's the budget doing in each department, what's the head count doing in each department.
We're voting on a budget tonight, I guess.
Yes.
Which one of these is the actual budget?
So what's before you is the administrator's proposed plus the additions the board has approved by resolution. The only reason I provided a new capital plan and a new Collins report is they both incorporated in the PTAG projects, which the board approved by resolution, and the recycling facility by resolution. I just updated the numbers that have already been passed by the board, added to the administrator's proposal.
But which is the one we're voting on?
The one from today.
Well, that's the presentation, yes, but the actual budget was that thick document you had at the general government. we sent to everybody.
John, next question.
A week ago, Friday, I was down at Stevens Point and I listened to a 2-hour presentation by Andy Phillips. He's our corp counsel for Wisconsin counties. And maybe Chad can touch on it a little bit more. But there's a challenge in the Wisconsin Supreme Court from Brown County that makes the sales tax, which is $4 million, very limited to what we can use it for. And Andy said that I think there are 12 counties that it would really affect.
62.
62, then there's about 12 or 10 that doesn't.
Yeah, it basically affects. the
Has
entire-
he brought you up to date? I know you've been in conference, we've been in.
They just said at the last time that the appeals court booted it to the Supreme Court. What it has to do with is the additional sales tax. The law verbatim is that it can only be used to reduce the tax burden on the citizen. In Green Bay, they appropriated that for capital projects, and the conservative tax group has appealed it. And it's challenged it. It's gone to the Supreme Court. So if it does, what that does is create a dollar for dollar offset for the additional sales tax.
It would change what we use next year, our sales tax for.
So there'll be discussion, but now it's the next step in this process on the agenda is to vote on the resolution to approve the budget and or make any amendments.
Yeah, so do we have a motion to approve the resolution 5721, resolution to make capital, where am I at? Sorry. Resolution 5621 to adopt the 22 Polk County operating capital budget to set tax
So
levy.
moved by roll call.
Okay, so we have a roll call vote to approve the budget.
Is this what I put my motion in?
No, just
First
hold
and
on.
second, bring to the floor, then you can
Then
make
you
it.
can do
Yeah,
that.
you said approve it, okay.
Just bring it to the floor. So it's on the floor. Got a second? Yep. Supervisor Middleton, you made it second to bring it to the floor? So it's up for discussion now or amendments. Yes, you can.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to amend Kinship program. Change it from 38,000, 12,000 would be 50,000.
Plus 12,000? Plus 12,000?
We had
Okay.
some discussions on
So,
Monday.
yeah, we'll discuss it. So we have an amendment. Is there a second to discuss Doug's amendment? Second. So the amendment on the floor is to increase that budget by $12,000. Are there questions about this amendment? Seeing no questions, we'll do a roll call vote. Any question, Administrator? You go ahead.
I would just say, and they're a fine organization, they didn't ask for it. They asked for 38,000. Secondly, I think that the discussion has been in the past, boy, a long time ago, in 2000, we gave them 102,000. In researching that was initially seed money. And we started it with the understanding that they would take on more and more of their own responsibility. And since then, they have done that quite well. And in fact, they do have a healthy bank account, and they are probably, as they said in their words, the most successful kinship organization in the Midwest. So I only say that because we're setting a precedent. If someone asks for a certain amount of money, and then we say, well, let's give them more. When, I just would caution you with that.
So, go ahead, Sharon.
At that time, they came in and spoke to us too. I believe someone asked them if they got more funds, could they service more people? And she didn't think that was the solution. She said they're limited by the number of volunteers they have too. So I got the impression that more money wasn't what they were looking for. They didn't ask for it.
I need more personnel, really.
Yeah, more volunteers.
Can I just ask Doug, what's the basis of
Yeah, Jay, you can ask anyone anything you want.
It's the basis for the 12,000 increase.
Watching these people right up there in the front when they were coming in, talking of their program. I'm not involved in the program, but I know people that are, and I think it's a fabulous thing.
But I didn't know the basis for it.
It feel good.
And that.
That's right.
Supervisor Arcan?
Should probably keep in mind too that we were asked months ago to, I mean, this is gonna get really late tonight. We'll probably either go into another meeting tonight or, I mean, we have to get it done, but we were supposed to bring this to committee, run it through committee, get it through general government. And it should almost be the technical amendments that we have that went through general government. We approved a fair bit of money that went through committee. And if we're gonna start here, everybody's gonna bring it tonight. We're gonna have full discussion on it, vote on it. Gonna drag us down.
Supervisor Rowdy?
I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but I brought it up maybe 4 times in committee and Chad said to bring it here tonight.
So probably it just didn't get through a committee and approved through the process.
The attempt was made.
The attempt was made. Sure, I know it never came, I said at general government, I missed one meeting this year. I never heard it.
It never got out of environmental services because he said, wait.
Sure, okay.
I think maybe too, if I recall that, it was more, that should probably go before another committee.
And I'd like to just, sure, and I'd like to at least have a discussion. The administrator had said what he said tonight, and Supervisor Arcan and some of you supervisors have been here a long time. And remember when meetings went past midnight and you had to have another meeting.
But we didn't know if we adjourned or recessed.
Right. And I guess I'd like someone to comment about the process we've had, and then about also some of the amendments tonight where, for example, I know there's the command center coming up, right? It never went through a committee. It got talked about at committee, didn't go through general government to approve those. And again, that's the stuff Chair Supervisor Arcan's talking about. For supervisors that haven't maybe had the experience to do this, what is the other ability? Say, for example, there's funds that someone wants to fund a project or a capital improvement after the budget's done. It doesn't mean, can someone address that? It doesn't mean we can't still fund something at a later date than through the budget. Can someone explain that process?
Once the budget is passed, anything that's unbudgeted that we don't have available funds in the budget has to come as an amendment for general government and the full board. Will require a 2/3 vote of the quorum.
And so what, 2/3 of the quorum? So tonight it would require how many people to vote? Is it
General government.
about 10 people? So it goes to general government. Then you need 10 supervisors at a later date. We've amended the budget previous years when something is kind of finalized and we say, hey, this is what we know we want. I just want to make sure everyone realizes that we, if you don't get it funded tonight, there's still a process to run it through a committee and get it funded. We all understood that. All right, so is there any more discussion on Doug's amendment? Not seeing any. We'll vote on Doug's amendment to grant $12,000. Additional would be a vote by saying aye. And so all in favor, vote by saying aye. Okay. All of that opposed, say aye.
Aye.
Motion failed. Supervisor O'Connell.
So do we need a motion for your page, Vince, that these is out of general government? Maybe I'll ask that again. These are the ones, general government.
That would be the technical amendments. Yeah, you would.
These would be the technical
You'd
amendments.
make a motion
That's
to
what
accept
we're
the
talking about.
technical
Get on
amendments.
here.
That was my
general government.
motion.
Yes.
And I asked for a roll call vote to approve.
that technical amendments, right? So we got that. Is that proper now to take that? I'm getting a little lost here.
I apologize. I thought Supervisor Bonaprise wanted to approve the budget.
The entire budget with the technical amendments in it,
Oh, with it, so that was, okay.
right? That's the
Not
motion.
just the amendments to add them into the
Get her
budget.
done.
That's the way I understood the motion was. Well, hold on a minute. Just hold on. Yep, we're gonna get to you.
So that it's out there already.
It's already out there. That included the technical amendments.
That included it.
That included the entire budget that's been passed through committee. All right, Supervisor Middleton, now you have an amendment?
I would like to make an amendment. So, the board, Vince's sheet here is November 4th. And our Health and Human Services motion passed unanimously second for the command center. So we don't know the process maybe, but I make a motion that we replace the command center, Polk County's primary backup 911 communication and public health response unit, at a cost to not exceed $550,000. I have this.
Is there a second? Yeah, just make it, and we'll have discussion if there's, is there a second to do that?
Just for a point of order though. She's making a minute. I mean, don't we have to deal with John's?
That's the whole thing.
He's
He
got
voted
the
for
whole
the budget and the amendments. So that's why if you voted on that, you'd be done. There'd be no ability to amend.
Yes.
Right, so,
It's making an amendment to the whole budget, which is on the floor as a part of John's. Because of the way Supervisor Bonner writes.
are you okay with that, O'Connell?
Seems a little messy. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have an amendment proposed. We need a second. Supervisor Pritchard, so there can be discussion about amendment by Supervisor Middleton. Spend how much money?
Half said it's $450,000.
Okay, let's just keep it that. Let's not discuss it right now. Your amendments for 400,
I didn't answer your question.
Yeah, you
So it's
did.
550,000.
550,000?
That was what staff said they needed. Yep. That was our presentation that we had in Health and Human. Right, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
It was 450.
Corporation Council, I'd like an explanation of what happened in Health and Human Services about this issue.
I just wanted to make it clear because it was changed several times and I kept saying friendly. If for those of you on that committee, the motion that was ultimately adopted by the Health and Human Services Committee was to communicate to this board that the command center should be a priority, but not to tie it necessarily to the budget or to ARPA or to any other funding source, specifically just to say, hey, we support this. So I just wanted to make it clear that it wasn't that a committee recommended a budget amendment that the administrator just simply chose not to put in that list. I just wanted to make that
She's
clear.
actually right. That was Dr. Logus.
Right.
That it's a priority and we need to deal with it.
Priority,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And the discussion was, and I think we'll really address this on the committee of the whole, our discussion, and part of his motion was to substitute this for that roof on
And
the,
that's on the ARPA fund that got pushed out.
yeah, we thought this should be a priority on the
On the
ARPA
ARPA
fund,
funds.
substituting this,
Sure,
that we thought the roof should be capital improvement.
sure. Supervisor Rowdy?
I'd like to mention that this issue was brought to public safety. Voted on to move the museum out. All of the critical equipment for towers and microwave and this center with the roof.
And now that's getting postponed till next month, that ARPA fund, all those are getting postponed till next month at committee of the whole.
Well, yeah, that's true. I know that, but what I'm saying is all this discussion is brought back up with the command center, so that was in there.
You
Those
got that.
three, roof and the command center, they were all bundled together in our.
Yeah, in ARPA funds, right, and we're gonna do that next month.
Right, but I'm just saying,
Sure.
you know, then I could make an amendment to add the museum to.
Anyone can make an amendment. That's what Supervisor Arcan was discussing tonight, you
I
know.
know, but it's hard to make an amendment if we're gonna postpone it till next month.
And that's what the board has to do. I know.
I just get my 1 cent.
And we'll do the commandment center on committee of whole too, right, Amy?
Well, we still have this on the floor, so
It's on the floor right now. There's a first and a second. I mean, unless the people that made the first and the second want to wait till next month and do it under ARPA. Right now, if Supervisor Rook,
Unfortunately, I don't think it's fair for us to even come to a vote on this. I'm not saying that we don't need it, but I've got no ability to research that ahead of time to even have an opinion. So to put that as an amendment to the budget today without being able to do the research and understand the need and what it will cost and all the parameters of it, I don't think it's fair to do that at this time. So I can't support it, even though I may believe in it.
I would.
any other discussion about the amendment? Seeing none, we'll take a voice, we'll just vote on this. All in favor of the 550,000 for the command center on this year's budget, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not carried. Now we're back to the original.
To my motion.
Yep, and any more discussion about the budget? Supervisor Warndall.
I have a request an amendment. Moon Orby had put $15,000 into paint buildings at the fair. Reduced to 5,000. When that happened, I met with Vince and Chad, and then I went to the fair people and said, show me what it costs to paint what you painted last year. And it ends up, they spent $10,000 of their own money painting buildings last year. I think the 5,000 isn't enough to paint what they want to this coming year. And I think it's only fair that we, you know, it's going on county buildings, that we put the 5,000 in because that's what they spent. And, you know, they had a lot of volunteer help and that might run out this year.
So your amendment is for what specifically?
$5,000 to the capital improvement plan for a fair for painting, additional.
You want to add 5,000 to CIP specifically targeted to painting
Yes.
for next year's budget.
Yep.
Do we have a second on that amendment? Supervisor Rowdy. Now it's open for discussion. John?
How did it get reduced from 13 to 5? I thought it was 13 in here.
No, the 13's for the museum. It was, the original CIP was 15,000 for painting, 20,000 for.
Then how did it get reduced from 15 to 5?
Because the administrator recommended keeping funding stable for the fair for this year. They got 30,000 in capital improvements last year. So his recommendation was 30,000 in capital improvements.
Paintbrush for $5,000.
Supervisor Middleton?
you, and this is from the amendment, why wouldn't you ask for 10 to bring it up to what was in the number?
Because 10 is what was spent to do what they did last year.
That's what they.
I don't want to ask for more money than they need. You know, they showed me actual receipts, what it cost to paint what they painted. And this year is to paint the building that's going to get the new roof and then continue the additional painting on the H bar. So, you know, it just seems logical to me if they're going to spend their own money on our buildings, we should at least fund them to the level.
So everyone understands what the amendment is. Don't know any more discussion about painting budget increase.
If they pass that, I would add that to my motion.
Well, it would be if it passes. Yeah. All right. So we'll have a vote on adding 5,000 to the CIP targeted to painting at the fairgrounds. All in favor of that, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
No. Same side. Carried. Are there any other amendments to the budget? Seeing none, Supervisor Pritchard?
Looking at board additions to budget, there was reallocate 10,000 from tourism to economic development to be used for tourism effort. recommended. Where is that coming from?
That was a proposal and it was approved by the General Government Committee.
I thought we voted that down.
It passed 3-2.
Any other amendments to the budget? Doug?
I would like to make an amendment that they don't take 10,000 away from tourism. I mean, all we talk about
So-
on the board is tourism.
Yeah, so and I was one of the ones that discussed that. So if that's the case, I think I should step down and discuss why that came through committee. So John, will you take my spot?
Which page are we looking
So we'll
at?
make note of that, Lisa.
Right there. Oh. Right there. Look at 10,000.
So we're open for discussion on.
Sure. If I may, so I said on general government, the reason, Doug, that that discussion got brought up is because of myself. And what happened this last year with the president of the Board of Tourism, the county board passed the Stour Trail plan, right? And the board passed the multiple use on the Stour Trail equestrian and snowmobile county board policy. So that's what we should follow. The president of the tourism actually went to the state of Wisconsin, sits on a committee, and petitioned the state to pull back our MOU with the DNR. So basically tried to sabotage the county's policy. That's the president of the fair board, that's William Johnson. Of the tourism, and that was, sorry, tourism. I've been up all night and yesterday. And I have a hard time as a supervisor, not even as the chair, as a supervisors, and the county sets policy, and then you have someone that accepts $70,000 a year from the county taxpayers and then goes undermines county policy. I have a problem with that. Then we have an MOU with them this year that they have to meet the new MOU requirements. The MOU states that they have to have different user groups on their board, right? They just got that done in the last month. So, I guess, and we haven't verified it all, but, maybe they're there, maybe they're not following their MOU. The other thing is their website. They came here months ago when they were asking for money. They got money from us last year on upgrading their website. You still today cannot find their website, and it links completely back to all of the county's own information on their website. You can't even get to there. And kind of the final thing that really kind of chapped me this year as a supervisor is we had multiple people call up the tourism facility, and I know county staff did, and said the Stour Trail for equestrian users. We asked them to post that on their website, that the Stour Trail is allowed to have equestrian users on the trail. They said no. So here again, we're funding tourism. Equestrian people are calling up, trying to figure out where, not one post. And you look on their website or their Facebook page, you can't get to their website hardly. I'd ask anyone tonight, find their website, you can't find it. But you go to their Facebook page, they talk about all kinds of stuff in the county, what they do, Halloween hunt, their gift shop, everything they do. But here, county policy, we pay them $70,000 a year. So the discussion is I don't want to take money away from tourism. I'd probably vote to increase tourism dollars. But the $10,000 is to Economic Development Corporation has been doing an outstanding job in Polk County. I'd say out of any outside agency that we fund, I know for a fact that organization is doing a great job for Polk County. So the idea is that we would get some more bang for our buck, and we would earmark, we're still going to spend $70,000 a year on tourism. I think it's time to send a message, and it is a send a message resolution. And let's put $10,000 into economic development, earmark for tourism dollars. And then at the end of the year, let's let them show us what they will show us for bang for the buck. And so that's where this all came from. It's not about taking money away from tourism. It's about maybe getting a little bit better job for tourism.
Well, no, I follow what you're saying, but I'm a little mixed up.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says right here, it says we allocate them. You're not, how do you stand at 70,000? We allocated 10 and given it
So we
to
got,
economic development.
so we got 60,000 now that would go to Polk County Tourism. They're a nonprofit. They're not a county agency. So we're still saying as the county, we're going to give 70,000 to tourism. 60,000 is staying at the Highway 8 place. $10,000 would be earmarked for tourism dollars. Economic development doesn't get it to just put it in their general fund. They have to earmark the $10,000 for tourism dollars. And I had asked Chad to specifically, can you explain how that would be earmarked?
So we will create a line within, EDC has a line, just like they had for the workforce development study. $20,000 for that. We'll create a budget line under EDC's code for tourism development. And specifically put that $10,000 there. And any invoice they submit to us will have to be.
Okay, I'm gonna hold these questions in for, does anybody else have a question on this? Or comments?
I have a comment. Terry Hauer has been going to all the villages and towns. I know because when I go to the villages and towns, he's there, we see each other all the time. But he does a presentation of the website that they've developed. And it's focused around attracting people to come here both for jobs and for tourism. He's got some wonderful stuff put together there. I mean, he should come and show it to the board, the video that's put together and stuff. I mean, it's very good. And I've talked to the village presidents and stuff the meetings that I go to, and they interact with him a lot. They said he calls them, talks to them about how they can get, what can he do to help draw people into their communities.
Fair enough. Those are some great comments, and those are some of the things that as a board, we are probably lacking information.
Yeah, I represent the county on the EDC, and what Sharon has said is absolutely the case. Terry's done a wonderful job digging in and asking the hard questions and trying to determine what we can do to bring more into our county from not only an industry standpoint, but a tourism standpoint. And I think that investment in what he's willing to put forth is a big deal. Because I know from what I've seen, I'm going to pick on Supervisor Nelson. Got a bit of a special interest issue with the Stour Trail, but one of the first things I heard on this board when I came on was the fact that they were going to use that money we gave them for a website, and it's still not done. In my world, that doesn't cut it. If you don't do something you took money for, you don't deserve the money. So that's my standpoint.
Appreciate for the board, appreciate those comments. Steve?
It seems like we're shortchanging people on one end and building more trails to attract more people on the other end. So I think that, we should fund both sides. Obviously, we're funding the trail side, but now the visitor center is going to suffer where we could, have them promote these trails and increase use, which brings people here.
Go ahead, you guys are first.
I think this gives both sides the perfect opportunity to prove what they can do. I mean, tourism is going to lose a small chunk of economic development is going to get a small chunk of money to do it. It's up to me, it's up to tourism to prove they can get the job done. They haven't proved they can get the job done in the past. So now this just puts pressure on them to say, well, we better get our job done, or we could possibly lose more money because the other guy's going to do a better job. And I think that's good for Polk.
I think the real comment here is that they have to prove that they living up to their commitment, requirement.
Chair, and, oh, go ahead, Amy.
Chair,
Um,
Amy.
So I feel like it's a little unfair to not have the tourism here to talk, to defend themselves, because I've heard bits and pieces of all of this. I think EDC, I'm in the camp of let's do both. I mean, you know, EDC is doing a great job, and tourism was given a lot less to work with. Their website, we gave them, I don't know, 5,000, and we gave EDC like 50,000. So of course those websites are going to be markedly different. We also just came out of COVID challenges that gave us for finding staff. So I just don't think we should be punitive with our partners for a measly $10,000. We should be sort of saying, well, let's figure out what is the problem? How can we make this better? Not saying, shame on you, blah, 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 blah. And I think we should do both. I think, you know, EDC's website is fabulous. Let's give the resources to make the tourism piece also fabulous, because they talk to a ton of people. I drive by that parking lot all the time. There's always people in that parking lot. So
Let's
it's
allow
a
one
super
more
important
comment,
thing.
and then we've got this major budget to work on.
Yeah, so, you know, this ran through committee. We've had tourism there, so it's not accurate to say they haven't been at the table. We've had them at meetings. They've given us their budgets. They've shown us what they do. I've been on the board for 6 years, and I'm sorry, sometimes the truth hurts. They've done a lousy job, a lousy job until we force the MOU on them. I want them to improve. I would fund them $80,000 if they came in with the EDC presentations and they did what they said they were going to do. They definitely am. I mean, we all benefit from tourism. So, you know, if the board wants to spend more than $70,000 a year, I would support an amendment. You know, if this fails, and my point is, yeah, I do want to prove a point. We talked about this. We've been talking about this for months. Some of you may not be aware of it, but this has been talked about for years. And the low point was, again, previous county board chair undermining county board policy. How, if you don't hold someone accountable and you keep saying, hey, it's okay, you know, it's okay, it's okay.
The committee chairs out here, has this went through any other committees? Anybody want to comment?
Just general government.
The only comment I would make is the MOUs for outside agencies were put in place that either they follow the MOU that they agreed to, or we don't fund them. We're funding them already, and they're not following the MOU. So we're kind of going against our own policy. But
Ed, are you
it's
kind of
not
in
the
charge
only
of
spot we're doing.
Corp council reviewing these MOUs?
So the process for the MOUs is general government reviews them annually, outside agencies come in, the administrator holds the agencies in compliance with the MOUs reviewed.
So everything has followed the process, correct?
And I have a link to their website. When I searched it, I couldn't find it, but when I click on their link, I found it. And we asked for some diversification of their board, and they just named 3 people. I think this past couple of weeks was their first meeting, so they added some people on there.
I got a call from a constituent today, and very much in favor of the funding the tourism, but he did severely admonish the chair, and hope there was some changes. So we'll wind up the discussion. We've got a lot to do, and we'll wind up discussion. And I think, Mr. Chair, you can.
I don't know, wasn't there an amendment here that we're working on? Didn't you?
I didn't hear a regular amendment, no.
Oh, no one actually made an amendment to change it?
I think it was discussion only, so I think we can move on with our resolutions. Got this nice and warm, you're bigger than I am.
Thanks, John. Okay, so where are we at then?
Next resolution, oh, we're on my resolution.
We're on your motion to approve this.
To approve the budget
Technical amendments.
The technical amendment.
So we have a first and we've had a second. We've had a lot of discussion. Are there any other changes? Anyone?
And I ask for a roll call.
Roll call vote on this? Sure.
I believe in the past, yeah, I think on the budget, we've always had a roll call vote.
So one thing I want to make sure, and I don't think it's going to come down on a tie vote, but in general government, I wanted, I made the comment that, you know, I work and I'm part owner of a small construction company. There's some things in the budget that are construction projects that our company has been asked to already bid.
You have to abstain.
And I asked the general government to abstain. So, you know, I support the budget, but I'm not going to be voting on it. Hopefully there's not a tie. Huh?
Be a tie, there's two missing.
Okay. So it'll come one way or another. Okay, roll call vote on the budget.
Well, we start with Doug Rodney,
Yes.
Steve Morgall,
Yes.
Tracy LeBlanc, Dan Rook,
Yes.
Nick Richard, Karen Kelly,
Yes.
Mo Connell,
Yes.
Middleton, Jay Lou,
Yes.
Narcan, Donna Price,
Yes.
You'll show me.
oh, I'm sorry, Brad Olson.
Again, nobody.
No.
We're great. Okay. Ends your budget passed.
Chair,
Yes.
yes, we have a 10-minute break.
Yes, we can take a 10-minute break. Yes, here, you're gonna have it, Dan.
We're not ready. All the 45.
Great. Presentation of LHP.
I did. But you know, you didn't give us.
Supervisor Olson. I do want to make one announcement in the record. Is Lisa in here? No, she's not. So we gotta wait for Lisa. Lisa, I do want to make note that I did excuse John Bonneprice. He left the meeting.
To go to Arizona, is that what it's for? Yeah.
Anyone else wants to be excused, you can. There's nothing we're going to be voting on. So we got the presentation of LHP regarding mechanical update project.
Well, yep, online here, student Dave Gitzer, with Ann Porter online from LHB Architect, currently at 60% design, and it's going to go over some of the highlights and progress we made on some of the estimates we've gotten for how the project stands at this point. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Mo. I'm going to share my presentation real quick. Can everyone see the screen?
I can say none of us are going to be able to see what you're doing. We see the screen, but I don't think it's going to be big enough that we can read it. I guess we have our hand up.
Yep. If you could follow along on the handout, I will try and explain where I'm at. All right. Thanks, Mo. I'm Ann Porter with LHB. Thank you for allowing me to present virtually today. I had intended to be in person, but COVID had other plans for my family. But wanted to, as Mo said, give an update on the process for final design. As you know, we've been working through the design process to work with the approved budget. We are at 60% design, and we are working towards getting a set of final construction documents prepared. And I will kind of work into that schedule here. I have some additional information. So moving on to the first, I guess, official page in your packet, titled Process Update. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, process update. So just a reminder, we submitted final design drawings, which are at 60% October 22nd. We also started drafting our technical specifications at that same time. We created a schedule and phasing. We had some discussions November 4th, and we also worked with a contractor that we hired, Loeffler Construction, a third-party consultant that we wanted to incorporate to provide input on the final design cost estimate of the 60% drawing. So that was received on November 5th. Any questions on the process? We'll move on to the next page of schedule overview. The schedule is, as you can see here, not any exact dates as we're working to finalize those, but we're looking to prepare the 100% final design submittal in December. And that right now, I believe, is scheduled for actually December 15th on our internal calendars. We are then sending those drawings out for quality control and owner review. And we also do not prefer to get drawings out for bid over the holiday timeframe. We all know that people are busy and we want to make sure that this is on everybody's radar. So we're using that time period to review the drawings, ensure that everything's in order, prepare the front end technical specifications, and we're planning to solicit those drawings out the first part of January out for bid. So that'll be in the paper in contractors' hands to begin their pricing. We are then giving them a 3 to 4 week bidding period and requesting that their prices come back to us in February. And then we are sticking with the proposed construction schedule, assuming that we would be awarding bids and contracts in March, and then construction would be phased throughout December of 2022. Any questions on schedule?
So when would construction start?
We're looking at if the bids are received in February, we'll take that month time frame to get contracts in order. We also need about probably that same time frame for shop drawings to be reviewed. So they're suggesting when we're working with Loeffler Construction, a 7-month window total for the actual construction duration to occur. So there's a little bit of the front end period in March, early April, where we're going to get some logistics and ensure that we have materials on hand before we start the actual construction.
It may be May when you start tearing into walls, or March.
But potentially, correct. We still have to get the permit as well. And then the drawings will have to go through DSPS review, but we're hoping that that'll occur. You know, we would get the application submitted in December. So it's typically about a 6-week window. So yes, I would say with some of those logistics, you know, April at the latest, early May, but.
April or May, you'd actually, construction, some phases would start.
Correct. All right, moving on to our design update. So I'm going to try and go through this quickly. I know everybody's probably tired. It's been a long meeting for you, but feel free to ask any questions. I'd be happy to share additional information outside of this meeting as well. So just a reminder that there is architectural, structural scope, mechanical, and electrical. And Mo and I had presented this in a must do, you know, a recommended and a smart to do category. Right now, the design package includes everything that was approved within that original budget of 7.7 million. And then we've incorporated some alternate scope for you to review as well. So as a highlight, this showcases on the architectural page, there's an overall floor plan of the government center. If you look at those bullets, that is all of the architectural scope that we will be incorporating into our construction documents. And obviously there was some significant ADA upgrades, all exterior windows within the entire government center building, full roof replacement, insulating existing chases, and then also boardroom renovations for the room that you're sitting in right there. These are just some enlarged floor plans showing the area of the toilet renovation. So currently they do not meet ADA in the fact that they do not have a 5-foot turning radius for wheelchair accessibility. Also, the doors do not swing in the proper direction, allowing for the clearances that are necessary on the approach and the pull side of the door. So we are utilizing the space outside of the existing toilet rooms on each level. Every floor is slightly unique because of the elevator and some equipment space behind it. So these are showing two different approaches that we would be pursuing. We are actually increasing the number of toilet fixtures on a couple floors to accommodate those ADA stalls. And then the last one is on level 2. Those toilet rooms, we did not have the available floor area behind the elevator shaft. So we are looking at taking 2 single toilets and making them into 1 handicap accessible toilet on level 2. The stairwell upgrades are going to meet ADA, and with this you can see that we are trying to utilize some of the existing guardrail system and adding right now we're showing a mesh railing system being applied to that, adding new handrails around the perimeter as well. We're still finalizing what that material will be though on the center guardrail area. The main lobby of level 1 right outside the boardroom, we're looking at some reception desk changes. Right now your receptionist sits out in the center of the lobby. We're really wanting to ensure that we're thinking about safety and security for all staff and guest services when they're entering the building. So we're looking at relocating the reception desk across the hall, across the hall to the other side. You can see here on the floor plan, it is now located on the left side of the lobby. We're also creating several alcoves where we would provide customer service windows that would be secured windows with drop-down coiling doors that would provide security during hours that those departments are also closed. So with the alcoves, we're creating spaces that customers can get out of the main traffic ways to conduct their business. Just maybe highlighting to a photo of existing lobby showing the reception desk, and then some of our design solutions. You can see the window in the corner with a transaction counter, and also looking at some softening conditions to bring out over that new reception area, and that would be fully enclosed for security purposes. Again, highlighting the roof. And we are adding overflow drains to meet code. We're having to increase insulation to raise the pitch of the roof to meet current code. And also adding with that raising of the insulation, we're having to put some flashing and coping around the perimeter of the existing parapet. Boardroom, we are working on revising the layout that you're currently sitting in to provide improved I would say improved communication, also accommodating some updated technology. And so we're working through some of those plans, and obviously we would like input before those are finalized. So we'll be working with Mo on that. Going into mechanical, obviously I don't have mechanical engineer with me today, but there's a lot of development in upgrading all of your systems. You can see here a list of the mechanical systems that are included in the scope. The majority of the project, I would say, is focused on these mechanical upgrades, and we're taking advantage of the ceilings coming down and some of the additional infrastructure upgrades that we can do while those are having to come out for the ventilation replacement, as well as looking at here at your building automation systems, controls upgrades, and some of your water treatment and softeners. And your heating system upgrades as well. All of that is being done in your penthouse area with some other equipment upgrades throughout the building. So these are just some examples that you can see the plans are developing. We're also looking at locating the new chiller and generator, I guess chillers and generator outside the building to the east, right outside the jailhouse. I circled the area that's existing kind of courtyard area. It has a central, or I guess in the corner, a metal stairway, and that is actually coming out. And then the plan on the right shows the placement of those new equipment pads that would be on grade right outside the building. We're looking at elements of sound control with the new windows right outside that area, as well as blast walls for code and sound control. Electrical, I included a site plan, but there you can see here the list of the electrical upgrades. Obviously, there's power equipment requirements, the new generator, the security system upgrades, site lighting. Well, there will be many improvements there, as well as fire alarm system replacements since we have the ceilings coming out, as well as interior lighting upgrades. And on this last slide for electrical, I just wanted to showcase, this is an area showing some of the new card readers that are going in at new door locations, some new data and power infrastructure, and then as well as new lighting throughout the building. All right, so moving off of the actual design scope and wanting to describe some of the alternates within the process, we like to include alternates in our construction documents, which give us flexibility in our bidding climate. It allows the client to accept or reject some of the alternate scope, and that allows them, whether the bids are under or over, to allow them to award contracts. So there are some additional scopes with this that are add alternates. Mo had requested us to include some departmental renovations. Those are included in the ground level, land, water, and UW extension, level 1 human services building, ADRC department, as well as level 1 government services building, veterans services. We also then have the lobby level 1 lobby reception desk that we talked about. So those are all priced when you look at the pricing as an add alt, meaning that you have your base bid cost, you're adding an additional cost if you choose to move forward with that scope. And so we have here again just the list of those departmental renovations. I wanted to highlight the areas. You can see they're hatched in your plans. They do show some very minor additional wall reconfiguration, opening up on the ground floor, some open office area for cubicles, and then adding some additional doors. There's some minimal finish upgrades for carpet transition, flooring transitions there, and paint. We're already removing the ceilings, so that would have been a factor anyways. Level 1 human services, ADRC, you can see the scope there as well. And then moving on to the last area, is on level 1 government services, the veteran services, just adding really 2 walls to separate that department in a couple ways, and then the scope of the reception desk. All the other customer service windows are included in the base bid. So moving on to the budget update. So the board approved the budget originally at 7.7 million. LHB prepared our own cost estimate about a month and a half ago at 30% of the design drawings development, and we were coming in at roughly 7.9 million. We wanted to validate the numbers, especially with today's bidding climate, and bring in Loeffler Construction. So LHB hired them to come in and review the 60% drawings, prepare their own cost estimate. And as of, I think it was the 5th, we received those numbers. It appears with including, this is total budget, total bid and soft costs, $8.2 million. So what they highlighted for us is their number does include, is what they're seeing in the market today, and they only feel comfortable pricing and holding that number for the next 3 to 4 months, because the market is changing so frequently. They're saying there's a 15 to 20% current market increase within the bidding climate, and that is factored into their cost estimate, and that's within each unit price. Estimated value reflects market through February, as I mentioned. We already talked about a 9-month total construction duration, including, start to finish. The price here does include all the soft costs that's for total project, and then the roofing was one thing I brought up to Mo. They said that they are seeing roofing insulation having a lead time of 300 days. So we're trying to strategize on what the best timeline is to get those drawings out for bid. It seems like it makes sense for them to wait for that January and have everything go out at the same time, but there will have to be some scheduling and logistics figured out for the roofing piece of the project. I will keep moving on to the last piece here. For bid alternates that I mentioned, You can see in your packet on the left-hand side, it says deducts 1 through 5, and then add 1 and add 2. So the deduct means that the price for that scope is already included in that $8.2 million. So what we've done here is we've created 5 different deduct alternates, and you can see here the different value. That scope gives the board flexibility in accepting or rejecting those bids and gives you the ability to raise or lower the total bid value. So you can see on the right-hand column what they're estimating the value of that scope to be. And then at the very end, that is the scope for the add alternate that we talked about for those additional departmental renovations at 118,000. And then the last thing is that we've been talking about the question of increasing the generator size to be 100% backup. We're still working on finalizing what that generator size needs to be. So that would be an additional increase to the budget. So before I go on to, I think the last slide I have is just items for next steps. I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
I have a question. So on the roofing installation, for example, and this could be on any of the items, are you guys going to kind of be flexible on allowing alternates or maybe design build alternates or things that you'll consider on due to these lead times and these inflation numbers that are kind of cooked into the budget?
Yes, I'd say that's a very good question. We are always open to alternates or substitutions. We often include basis of design within our specifications, and that allows us to get detailed information so that it's an apples to apples bidding. What we do allow, however, is contractors to submit substitutions through the form that we include, and then we prefer to evaluate that during the bidding process because we don't want to get surprises after the bids and we're reviewing shop drawings. The other thing that you're mentioning is we do also explore voluntary alternates, and often contractors will share ways that they can see ideas to save money or expedite lead times. And those we would include on the bid form and allow them to submit them on their own, and then we'd evaluate those after the fact.
And I got one follow-up. And not sure where you have it, but as you do the demolition, do you have dollars in there for any structural issues? And the reason I bring that up is probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a failure on the exterior facade panels, and I don't know exactly the terminology for those panels. And
precast?
Yeah, the precast. And on the west side of this building, there's 2 panels that I know the welded clips have had structural failure on them that are within the wall cavity. And it just brings that up that it certainly should be reviewed during construction. But what kind of dollars do you put into the budget or contingencies for other structural issues with the building this old that you're going to run across?
I would say those are something like that, things that we are aware of. It's not something, honestly, that we've been talking about or tracking, so I'll be bringing that back to our team. It seems to me like it's somewhat outside of our scope of what we've been, focusing on to date. However, it could impact some things like our window replacement when, on that side of the building, but we also don't want to ignore it. So we do have a structural engineer, Jennifer Allen, that's on our team. She's been working very closely with the impacts from the mechanical system upgrades for the rooftop, since we're putting new equipment on the roof, analyzing the capacity and the new codes and snow loads. She's also looking at any new floor penetrations and also the widening of doors to meet ADA clearances at departments. We do have a contingency included in this total project budget. We also have, an owner or design contingency, depending on where we're at in the design process. And that contingency is intended for those types of unforeseen conditions. With a building like this, there are going to be things that we are going to come across. However, we want to try and do as much investigation as we can to find those things before we get it out for bid. So
How much is the contingencies in this project?
I don't have the exact number in front of me, and I apologize that I don't have it memorized. I can definitely get that information back to you, but I know it's definitely there.
Well, next time.
Sure.
That's all my questions.
Anything else?
But what's the timeline on approving some of these things? Do we approve it, not approve it? I mean, when do we go through that part?
We meet with LHB Monday to go over another planning review at 60% will be on site. And then we'll be coming back to committee or committee of the whole and general government with the final numbers and where we're standing on it.
So these are getting moved, not moved.
Well, I think the board though previously said that we wanted to have this whole project always this on a committee of a whole versus a committee. But if everyone still wants that, I think better. I don't think we want 5 people in general government making recommendations for this kind of a project. So yeah, I think everything gets done in a committee of the whole.
And if after our meeting Monday, we'll probably come back to the chair and ask if they want a special meeting. So there might be December. We're going to try to stick to the construction schedule and get the bids out by the end of the year so that we nail it down. So we can get the bid documents out in time. Part of that and
So Kim, you're saying that, you know, we're gonna, before we approve this project, you want to see the total scope of work before it goes out to bid? Or are you saying continue on what they're doing and then let it go out to bid and then we review scope? You want to review it before it goes out to
Well,
bid?
we could maybe save some time if we don't want to move some stuff around or whatever. You know, what if we don't want to move departments around? What if we don't want to move some walls? We don't have to do it. I mean, they save the bidding and everything.
Well, or we ask
I mean,
them
we
to
have a
put it,
building next door we're not using. We haven't studied that. Why aren't we using that building? I guess I don't understand.
would it be more helpful if you wanted to have more bid alternates
Yes.
than just this? And maybe,
There's the mechanical things we have to do, but some of these moving apartments around, this hallway deal looks.
so you're
very
asking
well,
for department moves to be as a,
But I mean, why aren't we studying the building next door? Be usable.
that's a different.
Why can't we bring those departments up there and put them there if they need to be ground level? Is there any reason we can't do that?
it was decided, when we first started this, it was decided not to redo all the mechanicals in that room, that building. We were leaving the building as is, with the only upgrade being to change out the controls for the existing mechanicals with the new ones. If we go with redesigning that building, between departments over there, then we're gonna have to redo all the mechanicals in that building also. Which is very expensive.
Very
Which
much
That was back in the,
That's just the closet.
That we're just gonna let go ahead.
decision was, do we tear it down or leave it?
Let's just leave it. And with the department renovations, with being customers centric and trying to get our customers on this main floor, elderly and everything. Meeting with the departments and what they do on there. Some of the moving of walls and that, we had to look at how do we bring the vets up here, the Midland and Waters area. They require a little different office area due to statute. They got to be separated and do things. Bringing ADRC up into where extension is now. We're taking a conference room to make a couple more offices to accommodate their staffing and how much they have and what their staff flow is. The behavioral health downstairs, where they said they opened it up for that down there is where the area where we'll put extension and land and water and converting some of the old file storage room that Tanya vacated into a water lab and storage down there for those departments. So it took a little massaging to get that done. The other ones with customer service was in the picture you saw the service window for land and water there in the corner. If you went into the deeds office, that gets opened up as the alcove. So there's a window to the north for the treasurer's office and a window to the south. There's a little tiny lobby in there within that department.
Oh, there.
So it's not stacked outside here. Same thing with the clerk's office. We open up the opening to the main door a little more. That becomes a little lobby inside for customer service with a secure window for them. And then it takes the receptionist in behind glass as that one point of check as they come in, so that we're able to get all our elderly and our customers primarily on this main level. So our elderly vets and ADRC are all on the same level. Took a little massaging.
But they can't go in on the ground floor. Isn't there a great big door? You can walk in, wheelchairs, everything.
What we're trying to accomplish with security on securing the building. Remember, we had the rowdy podcast driving through, walking through the building, trying to eliminate the public risk from wandering through the building. That they're known if they have to go on the bottom level, that they get escorted down there by the department they need to see. So we're just trying to make it clear. So you have one point, everyone comes in the same way. So we don't have people coming in that side and wandering around and trying to.
One of the questions maybe for Ann would be, is there any other alternates that you could think of that could be added to that list to help us decide in the end, this scope could be added or not added? Are you aware of any that you've discussed but you decided not to put in this list? Can't hear you. Hold on, we're gonna mute.
No, thank you. The way that we presented this before was a long shopping list of things that we could do or not do. I definitely think we could continue to break out additional alternates. It's not a big impact for us on the design side. I would caution you, however, because when contractors see so many alternates, it does create more work for them in their pricing, and it creates some uncertainty that they're not going to get the full package, and that there's going to be, the project isn't as enticing as it would be with the whole package. So we do have a sweet spot that we like to see. I do feel like the 5 deduct alternates that we've included give you a nice range of added scope or removed scope. If you feel differently on that list, and I can go through it real quickly. Deduct 1 is the full scope of all of the window replacement. Deduct scope 2 is the building automation system and HVAC upgrades. That is all of the scope in the human services building. So meaning that we would not touch the mechanicals within the human services building. Deduct 3 is the departmental service windows. So those are your customer service counters that we have with those alcoves. And then alternate 4 is boardroom upgrades, which includes carpet, some upgraded ceiling finishes, and then some furniture costs and technology. And then deduct number 5 is the omitting the exterior lighting replacement. So I guess if that is not the list you would like to see, we could definitely swap things out. I guess I'm curious what the ultimate goal would be in what you're trying to achieve for.
I don't have a goal. I was just asking the question and hearing a
we can
supervisor.
change it in any way.
I don't have any specific alternates.
Okay.
Just curious on why you pick those and why don't you do more? And I think you explained that.
Yeah, and I can give you another response to that. Why we picked these is these were the smart to do, meaning that they were the bottom of that list. We had a 3-page, I think it was maybe 4-page list. You had the must do. These are things that are failing. They're well beyond their useful life. The majority or the entire system needs replacement. And then you had the recommended scope. And then the smart to do. These five things were on the smart to do list that while you're doing this project, it made sense. It's going to be more cost effective and you're disrupting the spaces anyways. So that is why we picked these out. They're at the bottom of the list.
Thank you. That helps.
And to be honest, I think it is smart to do some of these renovations in this existing building. As Mo was saying, while you're doing it now, you're already displacing the staff, you're removing all of the ceilings and replacing the mechanical systems. I think Mo, you were planning to reuse existing furniture and just reconfiguring. So I think here you're getting a lot for your money in the roughly $118,000 that they've estimated that to be. So I think it's more cost effective to do it within the building that you're in.
Any other questions? Thanks, Ann.
Thank you. I'll be back anytime you want an update. Take care.
I have no appointments on line item 11. Vince, do you have any? County Board Chairs report. I guess the only thing I got is, I get emails, lots of different things in a month. So I do pass them on that St. Croix Falls sent this to, I think it was me, but I shared it. Going to talk about the ARPA funds with this next month, about the coverage. We also got another request, and I had the clerk send it out. I don't really want to go over it tonight, but there's an email out about another tour of a wine facility in Thorpe. Again, I want to remind everyone, supervisors, to make sure their pay requests are turned in on time. They got to be in within 60 days. And then the final thing I had, I'd asked Malia to explain last month about Supervisors Rowdy's request and made a motion. A lot of things in the paper about it. A lot of supervisors asked me what was that all about. So I asked Corporation Counsel to fill in what happened last month.
Oh, so with the Attorney General opinion, that was a very specific case where the Attorney General was asked whether or not a chair could be removed at a simple majority, or would it require a higher level of a 2/3, the way it would be if he were being removed as an official. Because at that point, that county apparently had no rules of order specific to removal of county board chairs. The Attorney General said in that case, it would be just a regular straight majority vote of the county board. Because we have our rules of order, and because our rules of order state specifically it would require a 2/3 vote, our county would require a 2/3 vote. It could not happen immediately upon somebody making a motion to do it without something being on the agenda. But if a supervisor did want it on the agenda, our rules of order allow for it to go on the next subsequent agenda. So that there is a mechanism by which to do that, but it would take first saying I want it on the next agenda, and then it would take a 2/3 vote. Just to make everybody clear, that is a strong opinion that I have. I did have a conversation with Andy Phillips, also the counsel for the Wisconsin Counties Association. He sees it the same way. Counties have home rule, but I understand where the confusion is when you're looking at an old AG opinion. It appears to make a definitive statement, but it was under very different circumstances. Is that helpful?
Just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that Corporation Counsel just followed up on it. That's all I have for my chair's report. County Administrator.
Very short. You've all heard a little bit about this vaccine mandate. I would just say that it's kind of a wait and see mode right now, but we have to get ready for it. The federal mandate appears to apply to both GAM and the health department. And that means that they would be required to have a vaccine policy that requires employees to be vaccinated. Their goal is to have everybody fully vaccinated for their requirement by January 4th. As you've probably heard in the news, there are lots of lawsuits coming forward. There's lots of challenges to this. So we are still sorting through this. I'll keep you updated. Have nothing new really on the Clam Falls Dam. Continue to look at the title search for all the properties involved, and we'll get into the survey. But we are also still waiting for the DNR to approve the application sent by Northwest Electric to approve the transfer. We expect that for the next few weeks. All I have.
questions on that? COVID-19 update? Yeah.
All right, so I'll start out with positivity rate in Polk County and the state. I know you asked that question last time, Amy. So state rate of positivity right now is 8.7%. Our positivity is at 18.8%. So we are jumping up a little bit higher than we want to be. We were running right in line with the state, a little bit higher, but now we're getting up there twice as high. We are looking at back first week of October, we had 234 cases. We dipped down the next week to 138, and now we've just seen this steady incline every week, 176, the following week, 224. We were at 272 last week. We're doing a lot of testing over at the highway shop. It's the drive-through anterior nasal swab, so it's super painless, easy. People are liking it. We're encouraging testing because then we can get people isolated if they are positive. We've done 1,288 tests over there since October 6th. Monday we did 84, so we're seeing those numbers rise too, which is a good thing. We've successfully held 2 booster shot clinics, kind of backed by popular demand. We are over at the highway shop again. Last Friday, we did a big Moderna clinic. We did 770 vaccine boosters. Today, we did a mixture of Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. Not a mixture of the 2 in your arm, but one line was Moderna, one line was J&J. Worked out really well. We've just seen this real demand for people wanting their Moderna because Moderna was the main vaccine that we gave here earlier this year. So we're offering 2 flavors now from here on out through the rest of the month. Tomorrow we have a Moderna and a Pfizer clinic. So 2 lines will be running on that. I think they've got over 250 people signed up for that. So, and they're only half-day clinics, so they're a little bit smaller, but still we're mixing it up. Morning sessions, evening sessions. Meanwhile, back at the shop here, we have flu shot clinics Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but we're also giving first and second doses. So if people haven't got their first or second dose, they can come on in here. And then in addition to that, we've got we're doing the 5 to 11-year-olds. If parents are wanting to bring their kids in, they can come to one of our scheduled flu clinics. It's a by appointment only, and parents must be present. So we've got all kinds of vaccine going on in the month of November here. Lots of shots going in arms, which is a good thing.
Yes.
I think we're sitting at 75 total for Polk County. I don't know if I can.
For 75.
75, yep.
And that's for what period of time?
From the
Since it started?
beginning of the pandemic. And I don't remember when our first death was. It was quite a ways into it.
Was the FDA approved 5 to 11?
Yep. Or Pfizer is the only one that's. And you can mix and match now. So if you had Moderna and you really want to get J&J or Pfizer, you can do that. It's endorsed, and we are allowing that here.
Can anyone come through the drive-through? There's no age, there's no pre-existing condition type requirements.
There are some questions on our sign up that you need to answer if you are in one of those categories, but most people would be eligible.
Most people are eligible. So it's
And
everyone,
we've got plenty of vaccines.
you're encouraging everyone to come through.
They have to sign up online. Check that box.
What is the question you got to check?
There's a underlying condition. If you have an occupation where you're around higher risk people, which, you know, it's your grocery store clerk, your human service people, you know, even anybody working out in the community, you're coming into contact with people. So
The easy box to check your sign.
Football for the Packers.
Are we tracking any of the fully vaccinated cases?
Yes, the state has data on that. We have anecdotal data. So you're asking if fully vaccinated people are getting COVID?
Yeah,
What
I mean,
those
I'm sorry, people are telling me, I'm hearing so many stories of so many friends getting it, so I'm wondering what the numbers are. You're seeing that too.
The sell for the vaccine on that is that you're less likely to be more sick or be hospitalized or die. So people are saying that it's milder, but it affects everybody differently. So
Aren't we also kind of now saying it's time for whatever?
third dose.
Yeah.
Third dose isn't yet. It's booster only at this point.
That's what I mean.
The booster, yeah. So the booster shot is 6 months have passed since you had your last dose. So most people got it back in the springtime are good to go with us, except for Johnson and Johnson. I think that's a 2-month turnaround that you can get your second dose. So for if it's been 6 months, then you can come through.
Right. Oh,
I do have
Supervisor Wendell.
Questions for this side. Is there any way that we can put her on the agenda sooner than we do? I mean, this woman works so hard and we're keeping her here till 9. Is there any way that when she does her update that we can squeeze it in? I don't know. Is our agenda such that this has to come here? Or, I don't know.
Agreed.
It just seems out of sorts. I
Someone's
know.
got to wait.
I do.
Yeah. Hey, I'd like to be out of here sooner too. I don't know.
Just a thought. I'm just throwing it, shooting it over the bow, like Hank used to say.
And I hear shoot up across the bow. I changed the agenda because it shot across the bow last month. So.
All right.
I need to balance all that. Tanya, if you have an issue with it, would you contact me?
Yes, I'll tell you, it is past my bedtime. Just kidding. I do have one more minute and 5 seconds. We are doing some marketing, so you'll see a video going around. I did send it to Health and Human Services Committee. If you want me to send it to you, I can do that. You can share it with whoever you want. But we had a grant to do some outreach, so we had a film company come in and shoot the 1 minute quick video. I think they did a really nice job.
Hey, thanks, Tanya.
Thanks.
You know, you could WebEx too if you want.
Yeah, maybe I'll go home and sign on.
Substance abuse scorecard. Do we really need to deal with this tonight, Chad?
No, and to be honest, I dropped the ball and didn't get it made this month. I apologize. I sure didn't know. It's on me.
You've been doing.
I do apologize. In December, you'll have the new format where I have 6 months of data.
Gotcha.
I apologize.
That's all right. Supervisors reports announcement. I know, again, it's a long night, but I know there's a lot of supervisors that go to meetings and we don't always hear. Supervisor Luke, you got anything about CJCC?
I don't go to CJC.
Well, I thought you did.
I thought you did.
You're on the agenda. You're the guy. But just,
I love to go to them. I always enjoyed them, but then I thought you were gonna be taking them.
Okay, so that's why we don't know what's going on at CJCC. Chad does, you don't, I don't, and we sat and had a discussion about executive, and no wonder we don't know, because neither one of us go. We'll work that out. I believe the second vice chair was given that, duty.
Yes, then I understood that you were gonna handle that.
Oh, really? Okay, so we don't have a report on that. Anyone else got something like that going on out there? Are we good for the night? Do we want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Steve?
Just one question about this tour here. I mean, we need somebody's permission to go to this?
Well, here's what I was concerned about. When these guys invite all of us, if we're gonna have a quorum, we gotta post it. I've already had one supervisor, maybe two, says I'd like to go to it.
I think we'll just post it because the invite's out there.
The invite's
That way
out there, so we just do
we'll
it.
Say it's possible.
So I'd like to do is just respond to the clerk, you know, and whether or not all individually people want to go, it'd be nice that the clerk has a record of who's going. So there's an email to everybody on this today. So
Apparently hog farmers don't know when we hunt deer, but.
They got it all mixed
Yeah.
up.
Deer season's ready.
There won't be.
is that all we had tonight? Hey, do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor, aye. Gee, that's good.
And I got wild boar.
Wild boar.